So hey guys. Welcome back to my channel. Today, we are gonna see what if Naruto used Kamui Sharingan to become Harem King in High School Dxd. And you guys will see some romance between Naruto and High School Dxd female characters. Wait, I am not gonna reveal the names of those female characters. So, please watch the story till the end. And I am 100% sure you guys gonna love this fanfic. Now let's start the story. Naruto and Itachi were watching Rias and her peerage train in a comfortable silence. Akeno was helping Asia out with some spells, while the others were doing physical exercises. The two kept watching them for a while until Itachi decided to break the silence. "This is quite the spot, isn't it?" Itachi said as he looked up to the sky. Naruto nodded. Apparently, Ria's family owned quite the place up in the mountains. It probably served as some kind of hideaway from all the nasty devil business, Naruto had thought. Naruto sighed as he remembered that he would be spending the next 10 days here, it would slow down his plans. "So, how much do they know about your Sharingan?" Itachi asked, having already been informed of Naruto's Sharingan when they had been catching up earlier. "They have a decent amount of information, I would say," Naruto said as he continued watching the peerage. "They know what the base form of the Sharingan does, and they also know that I possess the Manjikyu," Naruto finished. Itachi frowned. "The Manjikyu Sharingan is a touchy subject, Naruto-kun. You should be careful when you're talking about it." Naruto grinned slightly. "Already taking the overprotective brother role?" he asked. Itachi smirked. "That is certainly necessary with such a foolish little brother like you." Naruto laughed while Itachi chuckled. Their precious little brother bonding time was interrupted by Akeno, who had approached the two shinobi. "Ara, it looks like you two are enjoying yourselves," Akeno said, her smile plastered onto her face. "We sure are, Akeno-san. So what do you need?" Naruto asked as he looked at Akeno with a small smile of his own. "Butchu has requested your help for training," Akeno said as she turned around. Itachi and Naruto followed her towards the group. "Yosh!" Issei shouted as he rubbed his hand excitedly. "So what are we going to do now, Butchu?" Issei asked as he turned his head towards Rias. "We're going to have a few spars now," Rias answered as she placed her hands on her hips. "You all need as much combat experience as you can get. That's why I need your help," Rias said as she turned towards Naruto and Itachi. "I suggest we're having one-on-one fights." "That would be unfair for you all," Itachi cut her off. Rias rose her brow at Itachi. "Are you underestimating us, Itachi-san?" "Nope, he's absolutely right," Naruto said as he placed his hand behind his head. "You're probably overestimating yourself, Rias." Rias frowned at Naruto's words. "I think you're getting cocky, Naruto-kun." "Well, if you two are really that confident, I say we have 2 3-on-1 matches," Rias exclaimed. "Sounds good to me," Naruto said with a shrug. Itachi simply nodded. "Very well. Itachi-san, you'll be going against Yudo, Issei and Kaneko. You'll go against the rest of us, Naruto-kun," Rias said in a playful tone. Before the two parties separated, Naruto grabbed Itachi by his shoulder and pulled him close. "I strongly advise against using your Sharingan," Naruto whispered in Itachi's ear. Itachi frowned at Naruto's serious tone. "Why? Just because they're not after me anymore doesn't mean Rias won't try to get you in her peerage. They already know about my Sharingan, but they don't know about yours," Naruto answered. "I'm not forcing you, but if you get in a shitload of trouble later, it's not my problem." Itachi sighed, but nodded. "You shouldn't worry about me. I should probably worry more about you." Naruto didn't say anything, he just grinned in return. He patted Itachi's back and followed Rias, Akeno and Asia into the forest. Itachi sighed as he turned towards Issei, Yudo and Kaneko. He smiled weakly at them. "Let's get started, shall we?" Naruto and his opponents were now standing in a clearing in the forest. Akeno was smiling and had a small blush on her face, Rias had a serious look on her face, and Asia was nervously fidgeting with her hands. Naruto simply looked them over with a lazy expression on his face. "So, why did we go so far from the others?" Naruto asked. Akeno giggled and touched her lips. "Because I can punish you without other people getting in the way, of course." Akeno spoke in a sultry tone. Naruto took notice of the rather dangerous glance that Rias sent towards Akeno. Ria's attention turned back towards Naruto as she looked at him with a stern gaze. "I'll teach you not to underestimate us, Naruto-kun." Naruto smirked and activated his Sharingan. "Then what are you waiting for? Asia, stay back and give us cover. Akeno and I will take him head on," Rias ordered. Akeno and Rias then both spread their wings and started to fly above the trees. Naruto just looked on lazily until he was forced to dodge a small energy projectile that was heading his way. "I'm sorry, Naruto-san. I hope I didn't hurt you," Asia shouted in a concerned tone. Naruto growled as he resisted the urge to faceap him. "You're supposed to hurt me, damn it," Naruto was then forced to dodge once again, now jumping away from a lightning bolt that Akeno had hurled towards him. Akeno moaned as her face became redder. "Just stand still, Naruto-kun," Akeno shouted as she kept throwing lightning bolts at Naruto, who kept on dodging them. Naruto hid deeper in the forest to make some distance between his opponents and himself. He frowned as he looked through the possibilities of dealing with the situation. Asia would be no problem to deal with, but Akeno and Rias would be. It wouldn't be a smart idea to start throwing around fire jutsus in the middle of the forest, and his other long-range technique would certainly be fatal. Naruto rolled his eyes as he lazily sidestepped, evading another magical projectile that Asia had sent towards him. Apparently, she was the first to find him. Naruto disappeared from Asia's sight. Asia started looking around frantically only for Naruto to appear behind her, knocking her out with a quick chop to the neck. Naruto picked up Asia's unconscious body and placed it against a tree. "Take this." Naruto's eyes widened as he saw some kind of red energy coming towards him. He quickly activated his Kamui and disappeared inside his dimension. The red energy hit the trees that were behind Naruto, completely destroying the trees. "I hope I didn't kill him," Rias muttered to herself, looking around the area for any signs of Naruto. Unfortunately for Rias, the swirl of Naruto's Kamui started to manifest behind here. Naruto appeared in the air and punched Rias. Rias staggered slightly and turned around, only to be met by a chakra-enforced kick to the face. Rias was sent flying towards the ground. It would have been a nasty landing if not for Naruto, who caught here. Rias weakly looked up, a bit of blood coming out of her mouth. Then Naruto. Sleep. Rias found herself looking into Naruto's red orbs. She felt mesmerized by his eyes. She felt her eyes closing slowly as a deep slumber claimed her. Naruto sighed as he gently laid Rias onto the ground. He rubbed his eyes. Genjutsu wasn't exactly his forte, and since Rias was immune to low-level Genjutsu, he had to pump more chakra into the sleep Genjutsu, but not too much since that would break control. Naruto then looked up to the sky, looking for his final opponent. So the hunter becomes the hunted. Itachi sighed as he evaded every punch that Kaneko sent towards him. He certainly didn't want to get hit by one of her punches, since he had seen the effect of them. So she has super strength, Itachi told himself in his mind. In the blink of an eye, Kiba had appeared next to Itachi. Itachi jumped backwards to avoid Yudo's sword. And he has super speed. Itachi's attention then turned towards Issei. So what does he have? Boy, pretty boy. Did you see Kaneko's balls bounce when she was giving all those punches? That was a terrific sight. Issei exclaimed as a bit of drool dripped out of his mind. Kaneko blinked a few times, and Yudo just sighed at Issei's odd behavior. Itachi nodded to himself. I see. So you're a super. Itachi concluded. Why does everybody hate us? Itachi then closed his eyes and started channeling chakra towards them. I'm sorry, Naruto-kun, but I think I know what's best for me. Itachi slowly opened his eyes to reveal his Sharingan to his opponents. Kaneko narrowed her eyes while Issei's and Yudo's eyes widened. Those are the same eyes Naruto-senpai has. Yudo exclaimed. Itachi's body then suddenly burst apart into a flock of crows. The crows flew up high, circling the air. Suddenly, a few of the crows flew down and started attacking Kaneko. Kaneko-chan. Issei shouted. Issei gritted his teeth and activated his sacred gear. Boost. Issei charged at the crows and started punching them. But every time he hit one, two more came into place. Soon Kaneko and Issei were trapped in between hundreds of crows. Udo frowned as he looked at the crows. Just hacking and slashing through them wouldn't work because he would be only making more crows appear like that. He had to come up with a plan. It seems your friends have some trouble with telling the difference between reality and an illusion. Udo turned around quickly only to get punched in the face by Itachi. The force of the punch sent Udo stumbling back. Udo quickly regained his footing and he thrust his sword through Itachi's chest. Itachi, however, dissipated into another flock of crows. It is futile, Kiba-san. I would suggest forfeiting. Itachi's voice rang out. It seemed like his voice was coming from every single direction. Udo looked up to the sky. His eyes widened as he saw what it had become. The sky was blood red. Udo started hearing voices in his head, images from the past flashing before his eyes. Udo dropped to his knees and let his sword slip out of his hands. I give up. Udo spoke in a shaky voice. In less than a second, the sky turned back to normal. Udo slowly turned his head to see Issei and Kaneko on the same spot where they had been fighting the crows, both lying unconscious. Udo turned his head back forward and met Itachi's gaze. The last thing Udo would see before he passed out were his eyes. Those blood-red eyes. Naruto whistled a tune as he walked through the forest. He had already dealt with Asia and Rias, so now only Akeno was left on the list. I wonder how Itachi's doing, Naruto said to himself. Ara, I've finally found you. Naruto slowly turned around to see Akeno. She was slightly hovering above the ground. Her cheeks were flustered and she looked at Naruto with a hungry look. "Do you know how long I've been looking for you, Naruto-kun? I wanted to get you, but you just kept running away from me. This little hunt has really excited me," Akeno said in a sultry voice as she bit her lower lip. I'm sorry," Naruto said, not fully confident in his choice of words. "Sorry is not enough, Naruto-kun. I'll have to punish you now." Akeno started to create more lightning bolts. She then started to rapidly throw the lightning bolts towards Naruto, smiling like crazy. Naruto, however, did not move. He calmly stood there as lightning bolt after lightning bolt phased through his body. After quite some time, Akeno stopped throwing lightning bolts. Naruto looked at Akeno and saw that she was now panting a bit, her face flustered. Naruto decided to use this moment as an opening. He appeared in front of Akeno and kicked her in the stomach, sending her crashing through the trees. Naruto appeared at the spot he had kicked Akeno towards. She was lying against a large rock, breathing heavily. "I'm sorry, Akeno-san. I did not mean to hurt you that bad, but it was necessary," Naruto said with a frown on his face. The look on his face soon turned to confusion when Akeno started giggling. Ara. It's really cute how you worry about me. But your attack really hurt my legs. I can still move them, but I can't stand up," Akeno exclaimed in an overly desperate voice as she put a hand on her cheek. "Don't worry, Akeno-san. I'll carry you," Naruto said with a smile. He walked over to Akeno to pick her up, but once he was in front of her, Akeno grabbed his head and shoved it into her bosom. "Oh Naruto-kun, we don't have to go now. I still need to be punished for losing against you," Akeno spoke within a sultry voice as she gently stroked Naruto's hair. Naruto, who was starting to enjoy this situation much to his own surprise, quickly pulled his head out of Akeno's grip. In response, Akeno wrapped her arms and legs around Naruto, still keeping him close. I don't think that's a good idea, everyone must be waiting for us," Naruto said, trying to wrestle himself out of Akeno's grip again. Akeno giggled as she started to stroke Naruto's cheek. "I guess that's reasonable. But you'll have to promise me we'll have some alone time later or we'll stay here forever," Akeno said the last part in a sing-song voice. "Yeah, sure. Now let's go," Naruto said quickly before Akeno could change her mind. Once Akeno had untangled herself from him, Naruto picked her up bridal style. Akeno sighed in satisfaction as she buried her face in Naruto's chest. "Maybe, Uzumaki Naruto. Maybe you're the man I'll be able to rely on." Naruto pushed the door of the mountain house open. He saw Itachi and Kaneko both eating dango. Issei, Yudo and Asia were talking about something, and Rias was just staring into space. "We're back," Naruto said, having everyone turn their attention towards Naruto and Akeno, who he was still holding in his arms. Ria's eyes widened as she saw the position Akeno was in and started to glare daggers at her. Issei's reaction was similar, only he was glaring at Naruto out of perverse jealousy. Akeno smiled at Rias while Naruto just rolled his eyes. Naruto laid Akeno down on the one free couch and sat next to her. Akeno immediately moved her body slightly so her head would be resting on Naruto's lap. "So, what took you so long?" Rias asked in a deceptively sweet voice. Naruto gulped slightly as he sent a quick glance towards Itachi. Itachi just smirked and ignored Naruto's silent plea for help as he continued to share his dango with Kaneko. "Well, our battle was quite the tough one," Naruto answered, hoping that Rias would buy it. "Yes, it was very tough indeed," Akeno added. "But Naruto-kun, you shouldn't kick me that hard in the stomach again." "I'm sorry, is your stomach a sensitive spot or something?" Naruto asked as he rubbed the back of his head. "No, but it would certainly not be good for our baby." "Baby," Rias shouted out. "Damn it, Akeno," Naruto hissed. Itachi gave an exaggerated sigh. "Oh foolish little brother, how many times have I told you to use birth control if the time of the deed may come to you?" Naruto glared at Itachi who gave an passive look in return. Naruto stood up from the couch, making Akeno whine. "I'm going to take a walk. Let's discuss the results of the spars when I'm back, alright?" Naruto said in a tired tone. Rias nodded. "Alright, Naruto-kun. Don't take too long," Rias said with the slightest bit of concern in her voice. "And don't forget our little promise," Akeno said with a giggle. Naruto just sighed and smiled slightly as he made his way out of the door. "Those damn women, they'll be the death of me one day," Naruto muttered to himself. "And blame you for being such a womanizer," a voice suddenly rang out. "So you finally decided to show up, eh Maddie-chan?" Naruto said as he turned his head towards Madara. "You've never played the ignore card that long on me." "Oh, don't be like that. If I had showed up during one of those pathetic dances of yours, you'd probably be whining about how I was being an annoyance," Madara said in return. Naruto shrugged. "You don't have to worry about that, Maddie-chan. You'll always be an annoyance for me," Naruto said with a smile. Madara ignored Naruto's comment. So what are you going to do now you have finally escaped those devil's clutches? Madara asked. Albeit temporarily, he added as an afterthought. I'm gonna meet with Azazel real quick. Too bad I'll probably have to stay with him until it's dark, but he'll drink himself to death if I won't show up. Naruto said with an annoyed sigh. Naruto. Madara said sternly. Remember my words. I don't know how many girls are going to be bothering you or how many allies want to become friends with you, don't let your feelings get in the way. Naruto just grinned at Madara. Don't worry Maddie-chan. I have everything under control. So, what do you think about Itachi? Naruto asked. He's strong, that's for certain. But I don't think he will agree with your actions once he finds out. Madara answered with a frown. He doesn't have to know. As much as I hate to do it, I'll have to keep him in the dark about my business with the fallen angels. I hope that you know what you're doing. Madara said. Naruto frowned. I hope so too, Maddie-chan. I hope so too. Wine bottles. Wine bottles everywhere. That was Naruto's, who was now once again disguised as Madara, first reaction when he appeared inside Azazel's apartment. He looked at the couch and saw that Azazel was lying on it, a wine bottle in his hand. Oh, the boredom. Azazel yelled. Oh my dear Madara-san, what am I going to do without you? Azazel shouted to the heavens as he started drinking wine straight from the bottle. Well, we would have found out if I had stayed home, Madara said, amused by Azazel. Azazel shot up from the couch and threw himself at Madara's feet, clinging to Madara's waist for his dear life. Oh, thank the seven sins. I wouldn't have survived a minute more without you, Madara-san. Do you have any idea how boring today has been for me? I haven't heard shit from Kokabiel, who's such a loudmouth, and that son of a bitch Barakiel is probably at some S&M naughty party. Azazel exclaimed while crying manly tears. Stop slobbering on my clothes, damn it. Madara growled as he pushed Azazel away. The two made their way to the couch and sat down on it. So what can I do for you today, my dear friend? Azazel asked with a grin. Well, my original intentions were to stop you from drinking yourself to death, Madara started. Oh, you care so much about me. Azazel said as he patted Madara's shoulder. But I might as well get some more information while I'm here. But I might as well get some more information while I'm here. What does Azazel-sensei need to tell you today, young Padawan? Azazel said as he tried to look like a wise old man. Just don't. But. No. Azazel pouted. Alright, fire away with your questions. Azazel said as he started acting normal again. Well, what can be seen as normal by Azazel's terms? I need some more information about the peerage of Rias Gremory. Madara said. Azazel's eyebrows rose up. You want to know some more about Princess and her sidekicks? Well, they aren't really that special. Just tell me what you know. Madara demanded. Rias is the little sister of the current Lucifer, as you may already know. The only pieces I have some significant and special information for are her knight and queen. Azazel said as he grabbed a glass and started to drink his wine in a more civil way. Naruto's eyes narrowed behind his mask. What could be so special about Akeno and Yudo? Let's start with her knight, shall we? Kiba Yudo is the only survivor of the so-called Holy Sword project that was led by some dude by the name of Valper Galilei. Supposedly having escaped the clutches of the church, he was found on the brink of death by Rias and reincarnated into a devil. Azazel explained before taking another sip of his wine. Holy Sword project, huh? Guess I'll have to look into that later. Madara said to himself. Now we're getting to the fun part. Azazel said. Rias Queen Himejima Akeno. Her mother was a Shinto priestess, nothing special right? But her daddy? He's a special one. Azazel then started to laugh a bit. You're making me shrivel with anticipation. Madara said, the sarcasm dripping off every word. Her father is my boy Barakiel, elite fallen angel. Naruto's eyes widened behind his mask. Akeno was actually half fallen angel. Didn't see that one coming, huh? But the story gets even more interesting. After Akeno saw her mother die in front of her, she grew an intense hatred for her father for not being able to protect her mother. But it gets even more up. After finding out that Akeno had fallen angel blood streaming through her veins, the Himejima clan had wanted to kill her. The Gremories intervened and took her in. Azazel finished. Naruto clenched his fist tightly, breaking his Madara persona. He had been reminded of how he had been treated as a Jinchuriki, how he was blamed for something he had no control over. Snap out of it. The real Madara's voice suddenly yelled. Naruto quickly unclenched his fists and took a calming breath. You okay? Maybe you need some wine. Azazel said as with a slightly concerned look on his face. No, I'm fine. Just some old memories passing by. Madara answered. Azazel shrugged, deciding to not push the matter. Well, that was all I know. Hope you enjoyed this lesson provided by the great Azazel-sensei himself. Azazel exclaimed with a grin. How do you know all of this? Madara asked. Azazel gained a smug look as he started to twirl the glass of wine around in his hand. I have my resources. I'm sure you do. Madara then stood up from the couch, evoking yells of protest from Azazel. Come on, don't leave now. I'm sure we can talk a bit more, drink some more wine, hell, we can even play some dating sims if you want. Azazel shouted. Madara chuckled and started to activate his Kamui. Don't worry. Because Azazel has been a good boy lately, Uncle Madara will bring a lollipop the next time he visits, okay? Yes. I've been a very good boy. So can you stay a little longer, I don't want to get bored again. Azazel pleaded as he reached out for Madara. If you don't accept the lollipop then I won't come by next time. You're playing really dirty games, aren't you, you spiral-faced dot. Itachi kept looking between Akeno and Rias, who were sitting on opposite couches. Rias was glaring at Akeno, while Akeno just smiled back. Itachi sighed as he continued petting Kaneko's head, who had now taken place on Itachi's lap. Whatever am I going to do with you all, Itachi said with another sigh. Feed me more dango. Kaneko said. Itachi narrowed his eyes at the small girl. You've already eaten most of my stash. And could you get off my lap before I get accused for being a pedophile? I'm back. Naruto's voice came from the hall. As soon as Naruto had entered, Rias had already made her way over to him and started pinching his cheek. What were you thinking? Going out so long. You left during the day and look how late it is now. Were you out buying drugs? Were you drinking? Are you seeing someone behind my back? Rias continued to interrogate Naruto until he pulled free of her iron cheek grip. Damn it, woman. Naruto shouted as he rubbed his sore cheek. Why do you even care that much about where I've been? Rias blushed and looked away. Because I care about you, I was just concerned. Naruto smiled. Don't worry about it. Well, I'm really tired people, so I'm going to bed. Guess we'll have to discuss the results of our little spars tomorrow. Naruto then started walking towards his bedroom, only to stop and turn towards Itachi. Nai-san. Itachi's eyes widened as he slowly turned his head towards Naruto, who was grinning. At the damn girl of your lap, will you? You're not Orochimaru or something. Naruto said before walking off. Itachi just blinked before he started chuckling. Who's Orochimaru? Kaneko asked, still sitting on Itachi's lap. You don't want to know. But seriously, get off. Naruto sighed in satisfaction as he entered the room he would be sleeping in during the following days. It was certainly bigger than his own and had a nice king-sized bed. Naruto walked over to the bed and let himself fall on it, landing with his face right on some soft objects. These are certainly softer than my pillows, Naruto muttered as he moved his head slightly. Why thank you, Naruto-kun. Naruto slowly raised his head to see Akeno's face. He realized that those two pillows weren't actually pillows. Ara. You didn't forget about our promise now, did you? I decided to share the bed with you tonight, Akeno said as she hugged Naruto and started to nibble on his earlobe. Naruto's face started to turn red. Not that I'm not enjoying this, but I actually wanted to get some sleep, Naruto said. Too bad, we'll be doing anything except sleeping. Akeno whispered huskily in his ear. Naruto glared at the corner of the room where Madara had appeared. Madara was laughing like he had just heard the funniest joke in the world and was continuously shouting Uzumaki got whipped. And what do you two think you're doing? Naruto almost wanted to cry. That was Ria's voice. He turned around to see a very naked Rias standing in the doorway. Rias marched over to the bed, lied down and grabbed Naruto's head and shoved it into her bosom. Don't worry, Naruto-kun. I'll make sure that you can get some sleep. Rias said as she hugged Naruto tighter. Naruto wanted to protest but decided against it. It was actually pretty nice having your face shoved between a girl's chest. I could get used to his. Naruto thought and quickly fell asleep. Rias and Akeno, however, were not sleeping yet. Why are you doing this, Akeno? You know that I'll start pursuing Naruto actively once I break off the engagement. Rias said with a frown. Akeno giggled and wrapped her arms around Naruto's waist. You're such a greedy girl, but you. Maybe I just want a piece of Naruto-kun as well. I won't share him. Rias said with a defiant tone. Neither will I. Madara, who had been watching the scene, had finally calmed down from laughing. He looked at Naruto and sighed a bit. Well, womanizer, let's hope you won't get yourself and our plans in too much trouble. Naruto was woken up by the sun shining in his face. He groaned slightly as he opened his eyes. Ignoring the two other people that were basically crushing his sides, Naruto gained a thoughtful look on his face. I haven't been to school lately, he muttered to himself. Naruto's thoughtful look was soon replaced by a shit-eating grin. Not that I give a flying shit about school. Naruto's head turned to his left side to see Akeno soundly sleeping, cuddled up to him. His arm was placed between her chest and she was resting her head on his shoulder. Naruto smiled slightly before he turned his head to his right, meeting Ria's rather lustful gaze. Good morning, Naruto-kun. Rias purred, did you sleep well? She asked as she rubbed herself against him. You have no idea. Naruto said. He actually didn't get much sleep at all, since Rias and Akeno were constantly moving and putting Naruto into rather uncomfortable poses. Rias smiled seductively. So Naruto-kun, since Akeno is still asleep, why don't we have some fun? She asked as she started to nibble on Naruto's earlobe. What kind of fun? Naruto asked with a slightly red face, actually fully aware of the kind of fun Rias wanted to have with him. Ara. I am also interested in what kind of fun you were planning on having without me. Naruto cursed his luck. Akeno had woken up as well and was looking at him with that sweet smile of hers. That's none of your business. Rias said in a firm tone. Naruto tried to escape from his bed but could only manage to sit up straight as Akeno was restraining him. Oh Naruto-kun, you wouldn't have any fun without me, right? Akeno asked as she fluttered her eyelashes. Well, you see Naruto started only to be cut off by Rias. Of course he would. Naruto-kun would only have fun with me. She said as she wrapped her arms around Naruto's neck. Ladies, please. Then why don't we let Naruto-kun choose? Akeno asked. Naruto started sweating bullets. The two girls were looking at him expectantly. He was trapped. The sound of coughing turned out to be Naruto's savior. Itachi was standing in the doorway with his arms crossed and his eyebrow raised up. Naruto sighed in relief, Akeno smiled at Itachi, and Rias blushed slightly and looked away. Itachi just stood there in silence for what felt like an eternity. Then he finally spoke. You did use protection this time around, right? Damn it, Itachi. After Naruto, Rias and Akeno had dressed, they made their way to the kitchen. The smell of eggs invaded their noses. Naruto saw that Itachi was dressed in what looked like an Akatsuki apron and was making eggs. Where the hell did you get that apron? Naruto asked as he sat down at the table, Akeno and Rias sitting beside him. Got it for my birthday. Itachi said quickly, not taking his eyes off the eggs. Naruto just blinked a few times before resting his chin on his hands, waiting for breakfast. He ignored the strange glances that Akeno and Rias were exchanging. Soon enough, Yudo, Kaneko and Issei also entered and sat down at the table. In the blink of an eye, Itachi had placed several plates on the table. On the plates were fried eggs. Itachi quickly grabbed a cup of coffee and soon sat down himself, taking the head of the table as his place. Holy shit. These eggs taste better than anything I have eaten before. Issei exclaimed as he started to rapidly devour the eggs. Why, thank you. Itachi said calmly. Alright everyone, since we didn't have any time to do it yesterday, we're going to discuss the results of the spars now. Rias said, becoming serious. Rias turned her head towards Itachi. So how did your fight go, Itachi-san? I royally kicked theirs from here and back to oblivion. Itachi said with a straight face as he took a sip from his coffee. Naruto had trouble holding back his laughter while Rias' eye twitched. She turned towards Kaneko, Issei and Yudo. Is this true? Rias asked in a slightly annoyed tone. I wouldn't say that he kicked ours, Issei started. Yes, he beat us. Yudo said, getting straight to the point. Rias sighed in frustration. Naruto grinned and nudged Rias in the side. I told you, but you wouldn't listen. We're way out of your league. Naruto said. No way. But you lose as well. Issei was shocked. He would have never thought that normal humans could be this strong. Let's get back to the point. Rias once again turned her attention towards Kaneko, Issei and Yudo. Do you know why you lost? Naruto had shut himself off and wasn't listening to Issei's shouts of how they almost won. Naruto's gaze turned towards the corner of the room where Madara had suddenly appeared. For some reason, Madara was looking at Naruto with an apologetic look. Naruto just rose an eyebrow at Madara's strange behavior and Madara quickly disappeared. Naruto-kun Naruto. Huh, what? Are you even listening? It's time to talk about our fight. Rias said. Naruto grinned slightly. Well, there isn't much to talk about. I whooped your pretties, didn't I? Naruto said with his grin still present on his face. Rias blushed and smacked his arm slightly. Why don't you explain why you lost, Rias? Naruto just continued rubbing his victory in Rias' face. Fine. Rias finally gave in. As soon as Rias started talking, Naruto started spacing out again. What was up with the weird look Maddie-chan gave me just now, he thought to himself. Suddenly, Naruto's head started to hurt. His vision started getting blurry and he started hearing some kind of high-pitched noise. Naruto groaned in pain and fell off his chair, slipping into unconsciousness. Damn, that hurt. Naruto found himself in a very familiar sewer-like environment. He groaned a bit as he got up from the ground and dusted himself off. It actually worked. Naruto turned around to see Madara standing across the other side of the space they were in. Maddie-chan. Where the hell are we? Naruto asked in confusion. Madara chuckled. We're in your subconscious, Naruto. We're inside your mind. Naruto's eyes widened. Are we like, inside my seal again? Is Kurama here somewhere? Naruto's voice almost exploded with hope. If you're talking about the fox, I have yet to see him, nor can I feel his presence. You see, since I'm basically bound to you like I'm sealed inside you. And inside your mind. Madara stopped talking as he scooped up a bit of water from the floor. I possess a physical body. That's really nice and all, Maddie-chan, but I don't think you knocked me out during breakfast just to tell me this. Madara laughed. Indeed I didn't. There's something I want. Naruto rolled his eyes. What? He asked in an annoyed tone. Madara smirked. I want to dance with you, of course. Naruto sighed. Look, Maddie-chan. Before Naruto could say another word, Madara had appeared in front of him and kicked him in the face. Naruto was knocked away and skidded over the floor. I won't take no for an answer. Naruto slowly stood up and wiped away some of the blood that leaked out of his mouth. Naruto activated his Sharingan and glared at Madara, who stood there with his arms crossed, his own Sharingan already activated. Without saying another word, the two charged at each other. Back in the actual world, Naruto's body had been laid down on a couch and was surrounded by everyone. Naruto was sweating, his body was shaking, and his temperature had skyrocketed. Rias was holding Naruto's hand and was looking at his unconscious body with concern evident on her face. Rias soon turned her attention towards Itachi, who was silently watching. Has this happened before? Why aren't you doing anything? You're his brother. She shouted as she gripped Naruto's hand tighter. Do I look like a doctor to you, Rias-san? Itachi calmly retorted, effectively shutting Rias up. While his face did not show it, Itachi was extremely worried. It was not the fever, neither the shaking of Naruto's body. Itachi had noticed that Naruto's chakra was constantly being channeled, like he was using jutsus continuously. Many thoughts raced through Itachi's mind. Maybe it had something to do with the Kyuubi. Was there something wrong with his chakra coils, or was he channeling his chakra subconsciously? Itachi's passive expression soon turned into a small frown. I hope you'll be alright, Naruto-kun. Naruto, however, was not doing alright. He and Madara were now facing each other in a fierce taijutsu match. While Naruto had no problems keeping up with Madara speed-wise, Madara's expertise with the Sharingan gave him the edge. Naruto had tried to use Kamui at first, but he couldn't make himself intangible, nor could he travel to his dimension. It was probably because he was in his mind. Their stance is sloppy. Madara remarked as he jabbed Naruto in the side, making Naruto grit his teeth. Madara then suddenly stopped attacking and flipped backwards, creating some distance. Madara then made a single hand seal. High release. Great fire annihilation. A massive wall of fire spread out towards Naruto. Naruto's eyes widened as he was engulfed by the flames. Madara's eyes, however, narrowed. He knew that Naruto wouldn't be taken down that easily. Wind release. Great breakthrough. Madara was sent flying by the force of the powerful gust of wind. Madara gracefully flipped in midair and landed on his feet. He looked at Naruto with a raised eyebrow. It seems you've expanded your repertoire of wind techniques. Naruto smirked and charged at Madara once again. Madara sighed as he dodged the rather obvious hook that Naruto sent towards his face. In return, Madara punched Naruto in his stomach. Only for Naruto to disappear in a puff of smoke. The clone, Madara muttered. Rasengan. Madara turned around to see a spinning ball of blue chakra coming close to his face. Naruto had a massive grin on his face. Once the Rasengan hit, Madara would be done for. Naruto's grin soon disappeared as Madara caught the Rasengan. The Rasengan started getting smaller and smaller until it had completely disappeared. Naruto slowly tuned his gaze towards Madara's face and met a pair of purple eyes. Shinra Tensei. An invisible force knocked Naruto back. Naruto quickly regained his footing and made his trademark hand seal, creating 100 shadow clones. Hold him off. Naruto commanded as he deactivated his Sharingan and sat down in a meditative pose. The clones started to circle around Madara, surrounding him. Madara, not even bothering to use any jutsu, started to tear through the shadow clones one by one, only using his fists. Just a little longer, Naruto muttered to himself as orange pigmentation started to surround his eyes. The sound of the clones popping echoed through his mindscape. As Madara finished off the last clones, he turned towards Naruto. Did you honestly think that mere clones would hold me? Madara was interrupted by a Senjutsu-enhanced Rasengan hitting him straight into the stomach. Naruto used his free hand to prevent Madara from getting pushed away and just kept pushing chakra into the Rasengan, making it tear through Madara's armor and preventing it from stopping spinning. Blood started leaking out of Madara's mouth and a hole started to form in Madara's stomach. Naruto finally let go of Madara and he was sent flying until he was stopped by a wall. That'll teach you mother, Naruto panted, his sage mode now deactivated as he pointed at the now smoke-covered place that Madara had crashed into. As soon as the smoke cleared, Naruto's eyes met the sight of a laughing Madara. He was lying against a wall, the armor that covered his torso completely gone. The hole in his stomach was rapidly closing. You bastard. You almost killed me. Madara laughed maniacally. Damn, that's gross. But I guess it still has some perks having you best friend's face on your chest, Naruto said as he covered his eyes, not wanting to look at Hashirama's face on Madara's chest. Madara slowly stood up. Once he was standing, the humanoid form of his Susanoos started to surround him. The Susanoos started to form bead-like projectiles in its hands. Naruto quickly activated his own Sharingan again, his black Susanoo surrounding him. Naruto's Susanoo started to form shuriken-like shapes in its hands. Isakamagatama. Susanoo. Rasen Shuriken. The two attacks collided with each other, creating a massive explosion that instantly destroyed the two Susanoos. Once the explosion cleared down, Naruto and Madara were both seen lying on the ground. Naruto's body hurt everywhere. His clothes were torn, he was covered in blood, and it felt like every bone in his body was broken. Madara slowly crawled over towards Naruto. From this day forth Madara started as he rose up his arm weakly. I will pull you in here, and I'll train you. You're such a hypocrite, Maddie-chan. Naruto said with a grin. First you tell me that I don't need training, and then you suddenly want to train me. You still haven't mastered the powers of the Sharingan, your Taijutsu is disastrous, and we need to get you some more elemental techniques. I refuse to work with someone weak. Madara explained. Naruto grinned once again. I almost kicked your. Madara scoffed but smirked slightly. Almost. And I was holding back. Now it's time to go, Itachi and those devils must be waiting for you. We'll talk later. Before Naruto could say another word, darkness had already claimed him. Naruto's eyes shot open as pain suddenly invaded his body. It felt like the attacks of the two Susanoos had clashed again, and Naruto was feeling the effects of the explosion once more. The situation wasn't being made better by the fact that Naruto was being crushed by Ria's iron grip. Naruto-kun. Thank Lucifer you woke up, I was so worried. Ria's grip tightened around Naruto, making it difficult to breathe for him. Rias, you're making the pain worse. Naruto managed to get out. It even hurt to talk. Rias quickly released Naruto. She smiled a bit and wiped something from her eye. Naruto narrowed his eyes. Ria's eyes were slightly red and puffy. Were you crying? Naruto asked. I told you I was worried. Ria said with her smile still on her face. Alright everyone, go about your business. He needs some space. Itachi said as he started to push everyone away. And you're saying that you can stay? Rias asked as she put her hands on her hips. Of course I can. As his brother, I have those kind of privileges. Once you two are married, you can stay together forever. Itachi said with a small smile. Rias blushed and wanted to protest, but left the room nonetheless. Itachi sighed as he pulled up a chair and sat down, facing Naruto. How are you feeling? Itachi asked. Like all the Biju sat on me. Naruto groaned. You were channeling chakra most of the time you were unconscious. Do you have any idea what it could be? I absolutely don't. Naruto lied. He didn't think Itachi would like the fact that he got beat up by Uchiha Madara himself, not even talking about the fact that Madara was actually bound to Naruto. Itachi sighed again and pinched the bridge of his nose. Alright then. I'll continue helping the others from time to time, but you need to have all the rest you can get. Itachi then stood up and left the room, leaving Naruto alone. Well shit, what am I supposed to do now? Naruto asked himself. He then laughed a bit, remembering how Azazel acted when he was bored. Need some company? Madara's voice suddenly rang out. You son of a bitch. Naruto growled. Perhaps you should mention that I will actually feel all the pain again when I wake up. Madara shrugged. I didn't see any reason to do so. Besides, the effect that fighting me in your mind had is only a one-time thing. Next time, it will be like before when you wanted to talk to the fox. Madara explained. Naruto and Madara were interrupted by the sound of footsteps. Naruto saw that Rias had entered the room, only dressed in her underwear. Naruto sighed in frustration. Don't you need to be training with the others? I thought you needed me more. Rias said with a smile. Ria's expression turned serious. Naruto-kun, I need you to take your clothes off. What? I can heal you if we rub our naked bodies together. Rias spoke in an extremely serious tone. Unfortunately, it wasn't enough to convince Naruto. Don't come any closer. Naruto said slowly. Come on, Naruto-kun. Just take off your clothes. Rias then completely undressed herself and walked over to Naruto. No. I don't want to. Naruto shouted as he tried to move away, but failed to do so. Be a good boy now Naruto-kun, you'll be rewarded. No, help me. I'm being bullied. As soon as Naruto had shouted that, someone burst through the window. It was Itachi, and he was not amused. You're a real bastard, you know that. Naruto, now disguised as Madara, was once again hanging out with Azazel in his apartment. It had been a pain in Thito escape from Rias and the others, since they had insisted that he would rest for a few days. He could not help but feel amused when he looked at Azazel, who was sucking on a lollipop. You should be grateful that Uncle Madara even thinks about giving you these divine presents. Madara said as he pointed at the lollipop. Azazel snorted. Divine, my. Do I have to leave again? Madara threatened. Azazel pouted and crossed his arms childishly. That's a dirty move, Madara-san. Madara chuckled slightly. Now let's get to business. I need some information again. Oh, Madara-san. It seems you use me like some kind of walking encyclopedia. Does our precious time together mean nothing to you? Azazel asked as he put a hand on his heart and wiped away a fake tear. Madara sighed. I'll take you out for some good wine instead of this cheap stuff if you tell me what I need to know. The sparkle appeared in Azazel's eyes. I'll hold you to that. So what do you need to know? Tell me something about these holy swords. Naruto had been interested in them since he had met Kokabiel. And since Kokabiel's grand scheme also involved them, he needed some more knowledge on the subject. There's two kinds of holy swords. All of them are extremely dangerous against devils. First off, you have those used by exorcists. They're easy to produce and are made out of pure light. The second kind is way more special. These are swords of legends, forged by God himself. Azazel explained. Then Kokabiel must be after these legendary swords. Naruto thought. If Kokabiel wanted to invoke the wrath of the church, then stealing swords from exorcists wouldn't help. Fallen angels could easily create light weapons themselves. Sword of legends, made by God himself, were a complete other story. There are quite a few of these legendary blades. Azazel started explaining again, knocking Madara out of his thoughts. Durandal, Excalibur, you name them. These blades all have unique abilities, but they all have a single requirement to be wielded. And that is, the one who wants to wield one of those swords must possess a large amount of light element inside their body. Azazel finished. Madara nodded. Maybe these swords would be useful in the future. Well, thank you for the information. I'm surprised you even know about most of this. Maybe you're really my walking encyclopedia, Madara said as he stood up and activated his Kamui. It was my pleasure. Now don't forget that we're having some wine later. Azazel exclaimed with a grin. Madara chuckled. Trust me. I won't. Days had passed, and Naruto was now once again in the Grimory's mountain house, his bedroom to be precise. His training with Madara had been absolute hell. The old Uchiha was merciless with his methods. There were only 2 days left until the raiding game, and Rias and her peerage were training hard, but Naruto saw that it was futile. Keeping my feelings out of this all is harder than I thought, Naruto muttered to himself in dry amusement. Everything had been going great. He knew that Rias and Akeno were probably feeling something for him, but he had managed to push it away. Even though he managed to avoid it, Naruto could not help but question his own feelings. He had never been in a relationship before and, even though Rias and Akeno were basically throwing themselves at him, was still a bit clueless on the subject of women. Naruto sighed as he stared out the window. He didn't want Rias to lose, he really didn't. But that Riser guy had them outclassed and outnumbered. The thought of Rias marrying that douchebag seemed to irk him more than he thought it would. No. He certainly wouldn't let her go. Not only was she valuable for his plans, she was valuable for him too. With newfound strength, Naruto walked out of his room. Itachi. You called? Itachi said as he suddenly appeared. Indeed I did. Naruto exclaimed with a grin. Itachi rose an eyebrow at Naruto's behavior. He had been quite serious after he suddenly lost consciousness that day. Would mind you doing your little bro a favor? Naruto asked. Itachi smiled slightly. Anything for my foolish little brother. Good. Then pack your shit, cause we're going on a road trip. Where exactly are we going? Itachi asked. Naruto's grin was now almost splitting his face in half. To the Underworld, of course. Small distortion of space took place near the Phoenix estate. A swirl formed in the sky, and out of it came 2 figures. Naruto and Itachi slowly made their over towards the estate, avoiding the guards. Naruto used Kamui to phase through the walls and opened the door from the other side, so Itachi could get in. The two silently started their search for Riser's room. The estate was huge. It would take ages to find Riser like this. Suddenly the Sharingan-wielding duo saw a guard. How convenient. Itachi whispered with a smirk on his face. Itachi started to make his way towards the guard. Wait, what the hell are you doing? Naruto hissed, trying to stop Itachi. But it was too late. Itachi had grabbed the guard and was looking him in the eye. The guard muttered something and then fell down on the ground, having lost consciousness. Itachi nodded to himself and turned back towards Naruto. He's on the 3rd floor. Naruto rubbed his hands in excitement. A grin made its way on his face. Riser Phoenix, I'm coming for your flower. Naruto and Itachi were now standing in front of Riser's room. After having searched the entire 3rd floor, they had finally found his room. Of course they had to knock out some guards, scare off some maids, but it was all worth the trouble. So, how are we going to do this? Itachi asked as he looked the door over. Hell, even the door was designed with fabulousness in mind. This Riser sure liked to show off that he was filthy rich. Well, we could just walk in now and start shit up, Naruto started. Or? Itachi asked. Naruto grinned as he walked backwards. We can do this. Dynamic entry. Naruto charged at the door and kicked it with all his might. The door flew off its hinges and was knocked inside the room. A cry of pain was heard from inside the room. What the hell? Naruto and Itachi walked into the room to see Riser trying to push the door off his body. Naruto whistled. Holy shit, it actually hit him. After Riser had finally pushed the door off himself, he stood up and dusted of his clothes. His eyes went wide when he saw Naruto, and his gaze quickly changed into a glare. You? How did you even get in here? Humans can't just get into the underworld like that. Riser shouted in anger. That's a trade secret, my friend. Naruto said nonchalantly. Riser just kept glaring at him. What do you want? You know I could have a dozen of devils hunting your head in just the blink of an eye, right? Naruto chuckled as he walked over slightly closer to Riser. Alright, pal. We can do this the easy way or the hard way. If you break of your engagement with Rias, we won't have a problem. Naruto said. Riser remained silent for a while and then started laughing loudly. You fool. Is that what you came here for? There is no way that I'm breaking of the engagement. I need Rias to keep the blood of our devils pure, a puny human like you wouldn't understand that. Riser spat. Naruto shrugged. Well, can't say I didn't warn you. Naruto then disappeared from Riser's sight. Riser's eyes widened in response. He's fast. He thought. You shouldn't let your enemies get behind you. Naruto's voice came from behind Riser. Riser wanted to turn around and intercept whatever attack Naruto was planning to do, but it was already too late. Leaf Village Secret Taijutsu Technique. 1000 Years of Death. Naruto gracefully inserted his index and middle fingers into Riser's bottom. Riser was sent upwards by the sheer force of this feared technique. He hit the ceiling and fell to the ground, rubbing his Sirzechs. Itachi cracked a smile. It seems you actually used Kakashi's dreaded technique. Naruto just smirked and walked over to Riser. He then started violently punching Riser's body using chakra-enhanced strength. While the power of his punches was nowhere near the power that Tsunade's or Sakura's punches packed, it still hurt a lot. Naruto finished beating up Riser with a smile on his face. Akeno's sadistic side was probably rubbing off on him. His smile soon turned into a frown as he saw that Riser's wound started healing rapidly. Riser, who was still lying on the ground, started laughing again. It's useless. Your puny attacks won't hurt me. Riser laughed. His laughing abruptly stopped when Naruto just shrugged and walked away from him. Go your game, Itachi. Itachi nodded and walked towards Riser. I'm sorry we had to meet like this, Riser-san. But you have been quite a nuisance to my little brother. Itachi then placed his foot on top of Riser's chest. And nuisances have to be taken care of. Riser sneered and spat on Itachi. You're nothing different. Even if you're twice as strong as your pathetic brother, you can't defeat me. I'm immortal. Riser shouted. Itachi remained silent and closed his eyes. After a few seconds, he opened them to reveal his Manjikyu Sharingan. Amaterasu. In an instant, Riser's left arm was covered by the black flames. Riser screamed in pain and started thrashing around wildly, but could barely move thanks to Itachi's foot on his chest. Quite ironic, isn't it? I heard the Phoenix clan held extremely potent pyrokinetic abilities, and here you are, being beaten by fire. You can try and heal your arm all you want, but these flames will just keep burning. Itachi then took his foot off Riser's chest, making Riser quickly crawl towards the wall. He leaned against it and looked at Itachi with fear evident in his eyes. Stay away from me. Don't come any closer. But I won't have to come any closer, Riser-san. Tsukiyomi. As soon as Itachi had called out the name of the Genjutsu, Riser's eyes went wide. Riser remained silent for a while until he started to grip his head with his hand that wasn't on fire, screaming in terror. It's horrible. Make it stop, make it stop. He screamed. Will you break off the engagement? Itachi asked. Yes. Just please, make it stop. Itachi then dispelled the Genjutsu. Riser curved up into a fetal position on the ground and started whimpering. Naruto sighed in satisfaction. I guess our work here is done, let's get the hell out of here. Naruto and Itachi darted out of the room, leaving a miserable Riser alone. The duo quickly left the estate, this time avoiding any person they would encounter. Once the two were out of the estate, they took a small break. Damn, Itachi. What did you show the prick in the Genjutsu to make him beg for you to stop like that? Naruto asked. I forced him to watch Boku no Pico for 72 hours. Itachi answered. You cruel bastard. Did you really need to torture him like that? Itachi had always been a pacifist, hence his choice for Genjutsu as his specialization. But this was going pretty far for a man who didn't like to fight that much. We needed to get the message across. Besides, you're the one who shoved your fingers up his flower. Naruto just laughed and then activated his Kamui, sucking Itachi and himself inside the vortex, leaving the underworld. A day had passed since Naruto's and Itachi's little escapade to the underworld. There would have been one day left to the raiding game if Naruto and Itachi hadn't beaten up Riser. Of course, Rias and her peerage didn't know this yet. Naruto and Itachi were currently hanging out in Naruto's bedroom in the Gremory Mountain house. For some reason, there was a lot of commotion outside the bedroom, but the two decided to ignore it. They weren't able to ignore it for much longer since Rias decided to burst through the door and flung herself at Naruto. "Rias, did something happen?" Naruto asked, playing clueless. "I'm free, Naruto-kun. I'm free," Rias said as she hugged Naruto tighter, tears of joy rolling down her cheeks. "I have no idea what you're talking about," Naruto said, trying to suppress his urge to smirk. Rias separated from the hug so she could look Naruto in the face. "I just got word from my brother that my engagement with Rias has been broken." Naruto smiled brightly. "That's great. My brother also told us that he's going to visit us. He wanted to talk about this whole situation in depth for some reason." This caused Naruto to narrow his eyes slightly. Did Sirzechs find out that he and Itachi had entered the underworld? Nevertheless, this would be an opportunity to finally come in contact with a Satan. Naruto forced a smile on his face. "I'm looking forward to meeting your brother." A strange sound was heard coming from the living room. Naruto, Rias and Itachi made their way over to the living room to see a red-haired man being surrounded by Rias' peerage. The man was talking to Issei about his sacred gear. The man turned his head towards Rias and his face brightened instantly. "Ria-tan," he exclaimed as he walked over to Rias and trapped her in a hug. "Have you missed your big brother?" "Ani-sama. You're embarrassing me," Rias muttered as she pried herself out of her brother's grip. Sirzechs just laughed in return. "Oh, but you're so cute when you're embarrassed." Sirzechs cooed. He then turned his attention towards Naruto. Sirzechs smiled at him and walked over towards him. "So you must be Uzumaki Naruto. I heard many things about you from my beloved Ria-tan, and since she's quite affectionate about you." Sirzechs then walked even closer to Naruto, way too close for Naruto's liking, and put a hand on his shoulder. "You can call me Nai-san from now on." Ria's mouth drops and her face flushed. Naruto just laughed awkwardly. The situation only got worse when Itachi decided to involve himself in it. "I'm sorry, Sirzechs-san. But the only one Naruto will call Nai-san is me," Itachi said as he stood between Naruto and Sirzechs. Sirzechs and Itachi glared at each other, dark auras appearing around them. Naruto then smacked Itachi on the back of his head and Rias pinched Sirzechs' cheek, breaking the two out of their stupor. "I'm sorry about that, I guess I let myself go a bit," Sirzechs said with a laugh as he rubbed the back of his head. "Naruto-kun, Itachi-san, could we speak in private for a moment?" Naruto got a rather uneasy feeling in his gut, but nodded nonetheless. The three of them left the room and were now standing in the hallway. Naruto gulped as he saw Sirzechs' rather serious look. That look soon changed into a smile though. "I guess I should thank you two first," Sirzechs said, shocking Naruto and even Itachi to a lesser degree. "Well, your methods may have been questionable, I'm glad that the engagement is broken." "So you're not mad at us?" Naruto asked, slightly suspicious. Maybe Sirzechs was trying to take them when they had let their guard down. "Nope. I'm actually pretty happy, as I've said before. Even though we basically beat a guy from one of the most important devil clans half to death." Sirzechs just nodded, his smile still present on his face. "Damn, you devils are up," Naruto concluded. Sirzechs laughed in response. "Riser is in therapy now. He's basically afraid to look anyone in the eyes and freaks out extremely when he sees the color red. I'm sure getting beat by puny humans, as Riser himself puts it, must have been quite a blow to his ego," Sirzechs explained. Naruto and Itachi nodded. "Guess the Sharingan had up Riser good. But I still don't get it," Naruto said in confusion. "Aren't you even a tiny bit pissed that we, humans, just broke into the underworld like that and traumatized a high-class devil?" Sirzechs sighed. "Look, Naruto-kun. As a Satan, I constantly have to deal with this kind of devil business. But if there's one thing more important to me, it's Ria's happiness." Sirzechs put a hand on Naruto's shoulder. "I can see how you'll be able to make Ria's more than happy. Please, Naruto-kun, don't think of her interest in you as some grab of power." Naruto frowned a bit. He honestly had no problems with Rias. Hell, she was probably the nicest girl he had met in his lifetime. But there might be an extremely small chance he had to dispose of her once he had begun with the next stage of his plans, and that thought irked him to no end. "Well, I guess it's time for me to go," Sirzechs said as he started to walk back to the living room, Naruto and Itachi following suit. "Wouldn't want Grafie nagging me that I went without here when I get back," Sirzechs muttered as an afterthought. Once the trio had arrived in the living room, Sirzechs started preparing his magic circle. "I see potential in your peerage, Ria-tan. Good luck with your training. And stuff," Sirzechs said to Rias. Rias and her peerage sweat dropped, some surprised by Sirzechs' rather laid-back attitude. Sirzechs then turned towards Naruto and Itachi with a grin. "You two be careful. Especially you, Naruto, I'm too young to be an uncle." Before Naruto could say anything in return, Sirzechs had already disappeared. Issei fell down on the ground and started sulking. "Damn. All this training and we didn't even get to kick. Guess it was all for nothing." Naruto looked at Issei and smiled reassuringly. "Don't worry. All this training will be worth it in the long run. And you didn't think this was the only time we would actually train, now did you?" "Of course I didn't, pretty boy. Are you trying to make me look bad?" Issei shouted as he accusingly pointed his finger at Naruto. "Of course I'm really happy about this and stuff, but it's time for us to go as well," Naruto said as he activated his Kamui. "I'll see you guys later." Naruto and Itachi disappeared inside the distortion of space. "Let's hope Raynare-chan won't murder me." Naruto and Itachi appeared back in Naruto's apartment. Naruto sighed in satisfaction as he plopped down on the couch. "Home sweet home," Naruto exclaimed. Itachi silently sat down next to him. Naruto was broken out of his stupor when he realized that he hadn't been greeted by his fallen friend. "Where's Ryuma-chan?" Naruto wondered as he looked around the room. "Who is this Ryuma-chan you speak of?" Itachi asked as he looked at Naruto, who had started to frantically search around the room with a raised eyebrow. "Oh right, you haven't met her yet. I found her on the street, injured and suffering from amnesia. I decided to take her in since she didn't have a place to go to," Naruto explained as he continued looking around the room, opening cabinets and looking under the furniture. Itachi smiled slightly at Naruto's kindness, the boy hadn't changed so much after all. "Maybe she's in the bedroom," Naruto said to himself as he made his way towards the bedroom. Once he opened the door, he stumbled on quite the sight. Raynare was indeed in the bedroom. She was lying on the bed, hugging what seemed to be a body pillow. What ticked Naruto off was the fact that a picture of him had been sewn on the body pillow. He quickly made his way towards the bed and snatched the pillow out of Raynare's arms. This caused Raynare to wake up immediately. The two stared at each other for quite some time when suddenly Raynare trapped Naruto into a tight hug and started to rub her cheek frantically against his. "Oh, Madara-sama. I've missed you so much. You left so suddenly without telling me." Raynare would have continued telling Naruto how much she had missed him if he had not cut her off. "Keep it down," he hissed. "We have a permanent visitor. Remember what I told you? No Madara-sama when there are others with us, Ryuma-chan." Raynare blushed and lessened her grip on Naruto slightly, but still kept him in her embrace. "I'm sorry, Naruto-kun." Naruto nodded. "Good. Now I want you to meet our visitor. So get dressed. And get rid of that pillow, will you?" Raynare blushed even harder and quickly got off the bed so she could get dressed. Once she was ready, the two made their way towards the living room. "Sorry to keep you waiting, Nai-san," Naruto exclaimed with a grin. Raynare looked a bit confused. Why was her Madara-sama calling this man his brother? "So this is Ryuma-chan, I hope you two will be able to get along just fine." Naruto then pushed Raynare slightly closer towards Itachi, who had now stood up from his place on the couch. "It is a pleasure to meet you, Ryuma-san. I am Itachi, Naruto-kun's older brother," Itachi said with a slight bow of his head. Raynare bowed back. "It is nice to meet you too, Itachi-san. I knew you would get along perfectly," Naruto said with a grin. "Why don't you two get to know each other better? I have some business to attend to," Naruto said quickly as he disappeared back into his bedroom. Raynare and Itachi would not see him for the rest of the day. Itachi was blankly staring at Raynare, who was fidgeting with her hands rather awkwardly, trying to avoid Itachi's gaze. "So, do you like Dango? This sword is badass. It's faster than Sonic." Kokabiel lazily watched on as he looked at Fried, who was experimenting with Excalibur rapidly. They were once again in the old building that they were using as their extremely suiting hideout. Fried was laughing maniacally as he moved quickly around the room, leaving only afterimages. Kokabiel just groaned in annoyance. The exorcist would continue like this for quite some time now that he had got a new play toy. "It seems he's having a rather good time. Maybe you should join in." Kokabiel quickly turned his head and his eyes widened when he saw who was standing next to him. "Madara-sama," Kokabiel exclaimed. Upon hearing that Madara had arrived, Fried immediately stopped playing with his sword and excitedly waved at him. "Hey boss." Fried shouted, looking like a child that got picked up from daycare by his parents. Madara nodded back, slightly amused by Fried's antics. "So why have you come, Madara-sama?" Kokabiel asked as he followed Madara, who was walking towards Kokabiel's throne. Madara sat down on the throne and turned his head towards Kokabiel. Kokabiel trembled slightly as he saw Madara's red eyes flash briefly through the holes of his mask. You're not really perceptive, are you? I told you I would come back later to discuss everything further. Madara said in annoyance. He then turned his attention towards Fried, who had resumed his activities with Excalibur rapidly. I see that there's only one holy sword here. Where are the others? I thought you had stolen more. Kokabiel nodded. That is indeed true. The other two swords are currently with another accomplice of mine, Valper Galilei. Kokabiel explained. The leader of the Holy Sword Project. You certainly have an interesting choice in who you work with. Madara said, his gaze still glued on Fried. You know about the Holy Sword Project? Of course I do. What do you take me for, a fool? Madara asked in threatening voice. Kokabiel quickly shook his head. Good. So what is the next step of your grandiose plan of showing how superior you fallen angels are? We still need another sword, Excalibur mimic. After we have obtained it, we shall fuse the four blades together to create one, more powerful holy sword. Madara nodded at Kokabiel's explanation, but there was still a thing missing. And how are you going to get your hands on Excalibur mimic? Kokabiel gave an evil smile, showing off his sharp teeth. Madara cringed slightly. Compared to other fallen angels like Raynare or Azazel, Kokabiel was certainly no Prince Charming. Fortunately, the one who wields Excalibur mimic has been sent here with her partner to investigate the thefts. We shall take it from her when the time is right. I see. Madara answered. Under the mask, Naruto had narrowed his eyes. So he had to play the waiting game a while longer. He and Kokabiel were interrupted by Fried, who was tugging on Madara's arm. Boss, when will I get to kill something? I don't care if it's a human or some filthy devil, just swinging around my chopper sword doesn't match the experience of cutting through flesh. Fried whined. Kokabiel pinched the bridge of his nose. Madara, who wasn't the most patient man, would probably rip Fried's intestines out and eat them for breakfast. To Kokabiel's surprise, Madara only chuckled. Don't worry. In time, that blade of yours will be stained with blood. Madara answered. Fried grinned in response and skidded off, continuing to play with his sword. Madara sighed as he stood up from the throne. I shall be taking my leave now. Make sure that you keep little Fried in check. Farewell Kokabiel. Madara slowly disappeared inside the swirl of his Kamui. Once he had left, Kokabiel sighed in relief. The pressure in the room had lightened drastically. Fried slowly walked up to Kokabiel and stood next to him. The two stood in silence for a while, something that Kokabiel enjoyed immensely, until Fried broke the silence. Boss is certainly an interesting man. Kokabiel grunted. That he is. Do you think he is more of a boob man or Anman? The sound of Kokabiel facepalming would probably echo through the building for all of eternity. Damn you, Azazel. Can't you just sit still for one time? The disguised Naruto was currently walking towards the lake. Apparently, Azazel had gone fishing and wasn't present in his apartment, and now it was up to him to go look for Azazel. He slowly approached a small dock that he had discovered. Two persons were sitting on the edge of the dock. The one holding the fishing rod was clearly Azazel, but Naruto couldn't quite catch a good glimpse of the second person. There's something on your mind, kid. You want to talk about it? It's the least I can do for you, since you keep me from dying out of boredom. I thought I was the one who would keep you company, you wound me. Azazel almost dropped his rod. Madara-san. I didn't expect you to come here. The boy that was sitting next to Azazel turned his head towards Madara. The boy was none other than Issei. You? Issei shouted as he stood up and pointed at Madara accusingly. You're the bastard that took Asia's sacred gear. Your memory surprises me, devil. Madara remarked sarcastically as he sat down next to Azazel. Sir. You should get away, this man is dangerous. To Issei's surprise, Azazel just chuckled. Calm down, devil boy. Madara-san is a friend of mine. He doesn't mean us any harm. Azazel said as he put a hand on Madara's shoulder. You know, I was actually going to take you out for some wine as I promised. But I see that you enjoy the company of little devil boys more than mine, Madara said as he placed a hand on his heart. Azazel almost dropped his fishing rod. Seriously, Azazel then snapped his towards Issei, who was extremely confused. What are you still doing here? I need my wine. Sir, we haven't exactly finished the contract yet. Issei said slowly. Azazel cursed. He had been so close to getting a taste of some delicious, expensive wine. But the opportunity had slipped right through his fingers. Azazel cried manly tears as he came to a conclusion. Madara-san, from this day forth we shall hang out even more. Azazel exclaimed as he pumped his fist high in the air. Issei thought that Azazel had completely lost it and Madara tried to facep him, but his mask got in the way. So, little devil. How is your little blonde girlfriend doing now? Madara asked. Issei gritted his teeth and glared at Madara. You'd better look out. Issei threatened. That I'm putting up with you now doesn't mean I'll let you talk about Asia like that. I was just asking a normal question. You're the one getting angry. She's pretty much useless without her sacred gear now, isn't she? Madara taunted. That was it. Issei activated his sacred gear and was about to punch Madara straight in the face, if not for Madara casually catching the punch. Issei's eyes widened while Madara chuckled. And I thought you had a good memory. It seems you forgot what happened at the abandoned church. Madara then touched Issei's forehead, making Issei fall on his back. I could easily kill in 1,000 different ways now. We're not enemies now, we've just crossed each other unfortunately. Now, you should take this as a little apology. Madara then grabbed something out of his cloak. 2 small, silver rings were in his hand. Issei's eyes widened as he recognized the rings. That's the Twilight Healing. Indeed it is. I have no use for it anymore, so you should probably give it back to your girlfriend now. Madara said as he threw the rings towards Issei, who caught them. Issei was shocked, this man was just giving back a rare sacred gear like that. Azazel had narrowed his eyes at Madara. Madara wasn't a fool, he wouldn't give something valuable like that away for no reason. Azazel had noticed that it was actually the replica of the sacred gear that Madara had given back to Issei. But still, what would Madara gain from giving it to the boy you know? For a man who goes around ripping sacred gears out of innocent girls, you don't seem that bad at all. Issei said as he sat down next to Azazel. Madara snorted in response. Good and bad are just illusions created by people who want to justify their means. I'm not good, I'm not bad either. I'm just a man who wants to achieve his goal. Madara explained calmly. Under the mask, Naruto was frowning. This had made everything a lot more troublesome. He would have killed Issei had he been someone else. But he was part of Ria's peerage, Naruto wouldn't want Ria's upset about losing a piece, he knew how much she cared about her peerage. Let's get back to the subject now. Azazel said as he turned towards Issei. What was on your mind, kid? Come on, spill it. Issei sighed. It's nothing, really. Just some people from the church that passed by my house. Oh, that couldn't have been that bad, right? Azazel said as he put an arm around Issei's shoulders. Unless it are Jehovah's Witnesses. A shiver ran down Madara's spine. Those guys give me the heebie-jeebies. If I wouldn't know the devils came from the underworld, I would have certainly thought Jehovah's Witnesses would come from it. Madara and Azazel burst out laughing, even Issei laughed a bit. Issei then stood up and walked towards his bike that was lying in the grass. I'll have to report back to Butchu now. Goodbye, Sir Dot and Madara. Issei then hopped onto his bike and rode away. Be sure to come by Magic Circle next time, kid. Azazel shouted with a laugh. He then turned his head towards Madara, looking at him with a serious expression. Why did you give him the sacred gear? Madara shrugged. I didn't have any use for it anymore and I still possess the original. Besides, I've put one of my own modifications on the gear that I gave the boy, Madara said as he looked up to the moon. So? Azazel said as a mischievous glint appeared in his eyes. Now that the kid is gone, maybe we can get some wine now. Maybe next time. Why must you be so cruel, Madara-san? Naruto whistled a tune as he walked towards the Occult Research Club building. He had actually been planning to stay in bed this morning, but Itachi had forced him to go to school. Silently cursing Itachi's brotherly instincts, Naruto kicked a stone along the path. He had been lucky, Itachi had not been suspicious of Naruto's disappearances. Since he would probably have to meet with Azazel and Kokabiel a lot more, it was a good thing that Itachi wouldn't question every time he had to leave the house. As Naruto approached the building, a particular member of Ria's peerage decided to invade his thoughts. According to Azazel, he was the only survivor of Valper's Holy Sword project. Perhaps he could get some useful things out of Yudo. Maybe Naruto could get some more information about Excalibur. The only thing he knew was that the original blade had been split into 7 pieces, each one of the 7 swords holding a unique ability. The 4 pieces of Excalibur that Kokabiel obtained, even though one was still missing, would be merged into an incomplete version of the original Excalibur. But why was Yudo used in the Holy Sword project? Did he have something to do with Excalibur? Had he been able to wield it when he was still human? That made most sense to Naruto, since only someone with light attribute could wield the sacred swords. Maybe Yudo had some light attribute as well. Naruto entered the club room with a sigh. He saw that the whole peerage, except Yudo, was present. Since everyone was sitting on one of the couches, Naruto decided to take a seat as well. Naruto decided to sit next to Akeno, who beamed when Naruto sat down next to her. How nice of you to grace us with your presence, Naruto-kun. Akeno said with a smile. Naruto grinned. That's just how nice I am. Naruto turned his head towards Rias, who was frowning. So, anything interesting to tell us, princess? You don't look very happy. Some people from the church are coming to talk with us today. Rias said, her expression serious. Naruto's eyebrows rose up. Could it possibly be the ones that were sent to investigate the thefts of the pieces of Excalibur? I knew this day would come. Issei shouted in fear as he hid behind the couch he was sitting on before. Some band of exorcists has found us and is coming to exterminate us. We're all going to die. Issei was actually fully aware of who were visiting and was trying to lighten up the situation with some humor. It didn't work out that well. I'm lucky, Naruto muttered as he stood up and walked over to one of the windows. A crow was sitting outside. He was then suddenly reminded of last night. Hadn't Issei been visited by some people from the church? And now people from the church were coming to talk with Rias and her peerage. No, this couldn't be a coincidence. Do you know why they want to talk to you? Naruto asked. The church wouldn't just try to talk with the devils for fun, this was some serious business. I have absolutely no idea. Rias admitted. But I do know that I wanted to talk to you after this. She said with a smile. Naruto started rubbing his temples but laughed nonetheless. All this talking is making my head ache. Suddenly, the door opened. Two girls entered the room, one had short-cut blue hair, while the other had chestnut hair tied in two pigtails. Rias narrowed her eyes at the two girls. So, you're the two that wanted to talk to me. Rias said. Everyone except Naruto, who had walked back from the window, stood up from the couches so that the two girls could sit down. Rias threw a glance at Naruto, who was now sitting next to her. He had a small smirk on his lips as he looked over the two girls. Shouldn't you be standing up too, Naruto-kun? Rias asked. Naruto just chuckled in response. What can I say? I'm too interested in this to stand up. This was a perfect chance to get a complete overview on how he should progress with Kokabiel. If these were indeed the girls that were sent to investigate the whole Holy Sword problem, this was a chance that Naruto couldn't miss. So, what did you want to talk about? Rias said as she crossed her arms. The blue-haired girl decided to reply. Allow me to introduce myself first. I am Zenobia Quarta and this is my partner Shido Arena. Naruto noticed that Issei tensed slightly. So this were indeed the people that had visited him yesterday. We're here to retrieve 3 other pieces of the Holy Sword Excalibur that have been stolen by fallen angels. Everyone gasped while Naruto narrowed his eyes. They probably knew that it was Kokabiel who stole the pieces as well. But why tell us this? We devils would have no reason to associate us with holy swords. Rias said, slightly confused on why Zenobia would approach her because of the subject. Fallen angels and devils both hold no love for these holy swords. We are making sure that you won't interfere with our work. I don't care if you're a high-class devil and the sister of one of the Satans. Zenobia said, her voice cold and her gaze hardened. Rias glared at Zenobia and Naruto could have sworn that he saw Rias' eyes turn red for a second. Are you thinking that I'm siding with the fallen angels? Don't be ridiculous. Rias said as she crossed her arms under her bust. Zenobia smirked slightly. I see. I knew that the sister of a Satan wouldn't be stupid. Zenobia and Arena then stood up from the couch. We shall be taking our leave then. Zenobia and Arena started to walk away until Zenobia suddenly stopped. She cast her eyes sideways, looking at Asia. Are you Asia Argento? Asia seemed surprised by the sudden question, but answered. Yes, I am. Zenobia snorted. To think that a saint became a devil. You really are a witch. Zenobia said coldly. Asia looked down, guilt and even the slightest bit of regret flashing through her eyes. Arena decided to butt in as well. So you could heal both devils and humans. But know that your sacred gear is gone, you aren't exactly much, huh? Arena said as she put her hands on her hips. Issei was about to snap at the two, but Kaneko held him back. Tell me, Asia. Zenobia started. Do you still believe in God? Oh come on, Zenobia. She's a devil now. Arena tried to reason. There are still those that believe even after their betrayal. Zenobia said, not averting her gaze from Asia. I just can't forget him. Asia managed to stutter out. He's been there all my life. Then let me kill you now. Asia's eyes widened. God will be able to forgive you if you die by my hands. Zenobia started to walk over to Asia when suddenly Issei jumped in front of her. Stop talking about Asia like that. He shouted. She is a kind-hearted girl, you have no right to call her a witch. And she's not useless because I have this. Issei then rummaged through his pockets and gave 2 small rings to Asia. Asia gasped as she took the rings from Issei. XXXX, XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX The return of your sacred gear doesn't change the fact that you're still a witch. Issei gritted his teeth. Why don't I beat some sense into you, you bitch? He growled. Zenobia rose an eyebrow. So it is a fight you want? Then a fight I shall deliver. Everyone turned their attention towards the door to see Udo leaning against it. Naruto couldn't suppress his smirk, everything was going way too well. Naruto sighed as he looked at Issei, who was being healed by Asia. Udo and Issei had lost the fight against Irina and Zenobia fair and square. It turned out that Irina was the one who wielded Excalibur Mimic, the other piece that Kokabiel needed. But what had surprised Naruto the most was the fact that Zenovia also possessed a piece of Excalibur. He was broken out of his thought by Rias, who had approached him. "Can we talk now?" Rias asked with a smile. Naruto nodded, and the two made some distance between the other members of the peerage. "So what was it that you wanted to talk?" Naruto was interrupted by Rias, who was now hugging him, her head resting on his shoulder. "Rias? I know you were the one that broke off the engagement, Naruto-kun," Rias whispered in Naruto's ear. Naruto cursed under his breath. "But, why? Why did you do it?" "Because," Naruto started. Should he lie? Madara's words echoed through his head. One part of him wanted to stop all of this, not wanting to get attached to anybody. The other part of him desperately sought for Ria's affection, wanting to have someone precious to fight for once again. "Because you're precious to me, Rias. And I'd be damned if I would let you go." Naruto's eyes widened when he felt Ria's lips pressed against his. The kiss was short but sweet. When Rias separated from Naruto, he blushed slightly. Rias giggled slightly. "It seems my interest in you paid off," she said before walking away. Naruto just stood there, knowing that he wouldn't be able to go back now. He was silently hoping that he wouldn't have to dispose of Rias later for the sake of his plans. "It seems you didn't take my advice to the heart." Naruto turned around to see the sight of a scowling Madara behind him. Naruto sighed, he should have known that Madara wouldn't be happy about this. "Look, Maddie-chan. If I decide to ignore all this, it would only bug me more later down the line. Now that I've dealt with it, I feel a lot better," Naruto said with a sigh of relief at the end. Madara's scowl didn't disappear. "You're still dense, child. Do you think relationships work like that? That woman will want more, I can see it. And while you'll be playing her knight in shining armor, our plans will be suffering because of you," Madara said sternly. Naruto just shrugged. "Trust me, Maddie-chan. I'll be able to continue our plans just fine, even if I have 1,000 girls chasing me. That's a promise," Naruto said with a grin. "Then prove it," Madara said before disappearing. Naruto just smirked and activated his Sharingan. "I certainly will, Maddie-chan." The raindrops were falling fast as Yudo moved through the empty streets. He knew he could be seen as a stray. He knew that if he encountered any exorcist, he could be killed without causing a ruckus. But he wanted revenge and nothing more, and not even his friends would be able to stop him. "You seem to be in a rush, Yudo." Yudo stopped running. He slowly turned around to see a cloaked man appearing out of the darkness. Yudo narrowed his eyes when he recognized the man. "You're the one who stole Asia's sacred gear." Madara, Yudo muttered. Madara just chuckled as he walked over closer to Yudo. Yudo took a defensive stance and was on the brink of activating his sacred gear. "What do you want? Have you come to kill me now? I don't have to peerage backing me up?" Yudo asked, his eyes still narrowed. "Kill you? Oh no, my boy. Quite the opposite, actually. I have a proposition for you," Madara said as he crossed his arms. Confusion dawned on Yudo's face. "A proposition? Do you really think I would work with someone like you?" Madara started chuckling again. "I know what you want, Kiba Yudo. Revenge is what you seek, right?" Yudo remained silent. "As I thought. You've said it before, you don't have your peerage backing you this time. They won't care for you even if you return after you're finished with your scenes." "That's not true," Yudo shouted. "I know that Butchu and everyone is worried about me, but this is something I have to do alone. Tell me, boy. Did your precious Butchu or any of those friends of yours try to stop you when you were leaving? Did they throw themselves at your feet, begging for you to stay?" Yudo remained silent. "No, they hadn't done that. You can always refuse me. It is your choice in the end. But I can't promise that the peerage, Naruto-kun and Itachi-kun will be safe." Yudo's eyes widened. "What do Naruto-senpai and Itachi-san have to do with any of this?" Madara started chuckling once again. "They are like me. That's what they have to with it. They are nothing like you." Yudo spat. "They are cold-blooded killers. Manipulators. Liars. And that's not where the similarities end," Madara muttered as he grabbed his mask and pulled it aside slightly, making Yudo look into one of his eyes. "Those eyes. They're the same as theirs," Yudo whispered. "Exactly. Now do you understand, Yudo? You're risking more in the end if you just go and try to destroy those swords. I'm sure you heard of Valper Galilei." The name made Yudo clench his fists in anger. "I see you do. I will give you his head and the opportunity to destroy the pieces of Excalibur." "And what do you want in return?" Yudo asked quietly. "Information. My thirst for knowledge has yet to be satisfied," Madara exclaimed in a desperate tone. "I have eyes everywhere, yet there are still many places where I only see darkness. Would you be one of my eyes?" Madara said as he extended his hand out. Yudo took a deep breath and took hold of Madara's hand and said the two life-changing words. "I accept." Naruto sighed as he stared out the window, watching as the raindrops hit the street below. Raynare was still asleep and Itachi had gone to work. Naruto hadn't believed Itachi when he told him he had found a job, and he actually still didn't believe it. Itachi had probably used some genjutsu to magically impress his future boss during a job interview. Itachi didn't tell him where he worked though, or what kind of job it even was. Who knows what kind of plans the Uchiha actually had. Naruto grunted in annoyance as he tugged at the sleeve of his school uniform. His plans weren't going exactly as planned. Yes, he had gained Yudo on his side, well, not exactly on his side. He had put a small genjutsu on the devil to influence his choice and had threatened his friends. But Yudo was not the issue here. The name that bothered him was like toxic in his mouth. Valper Galilei. According to Kokabiel, he held the other Excaliburs with him and was the only one that could fuse them. The problem was that Naruto had promised Valper's death to Yudo, but he couldn't kill him immediately. If he would kill Valper now, there would be no one that could fuse the Excaliburs into one. But if he waited too long, someone else could possibly kill Valper, and then Yudo wouldn't owe Naruto anything. Is it finally getting too much for you to handle? Naruto turned his head and narrowed his eyes at Madara. Madara had become more annoying in the last few days. The man was always a ruthless bastard during the training sessions inside Naruto's Mindscape, and the fact that he was just a bastard overall didn't really help. I can handle everything just fine, Maddie-chan. Naruto said in annoyance as he turned his attention back to the window. Madara smirked in amusement. If only you had a few helping hands. Madara said as an incredibly thoughtful look appeared on his face. Naruto nodded in agreement. Well, I could always use shadow clones. But they could pop, and that would be really embarrassing, Naruto said as he scratched the back of his head. Madara looked at Naruto rather seriously. Then everything touched inside Naruto's mind. Oh, you're talking about that, Madara nodded. Naruto just sighed in response. I'm sorry, Maddie-chan. But I can't think of any way to get you a physical body. And besides. Naruto then narrowed his eyes at Madara and started shivering slightly. There's always the chance that you're going to brutally murder me in my sleep when you get a new body. He didn't actually know if Madara could even have a body again. He was nothing more than a ghost now. And Naruto didn't actually have the slightest idea on how he could even get a new body for a ghost. Madara just blinked a few times. So you can trust Itachi, but you can't trust me. Itachi has only been here for a few days, and only God knows what he's doing. I've been stuck here with you from day one. At least Itachi didn't try to cast a genjutsu on the whole planet or rip the Kyuubi out of me. Naruto argued. Madara just sighed. Very well then. But if you get into trouble, don't rely on me. Madara said before disappearing. Naruto rolled his eyes in response. He couldn't even rely on Madara if he had wanted to. The only thing that Madara was actually useful for was the training. Crap. The training. Wait, Maddie-chan. Naruto shouted, but his cries fell on deaf ears. Naruto gripped his head in frustration. Things were getting more frustrating by the second. Madara-sama. Is everything alright? Naruto snapped his head towards the other side of the room. Raynare was standing there, looking a bit sleepy and holding her Naruto body pillow in her arms. Naruto narrowed his eyes at her. Everything's alright. Why wouldn't everything be alright? He asked in a snappy tone. Raynare actually looked startled and clutched her pillow tighter. Why, you were shouting just now, so I thought that something happened, Raynare answered nervously, being frightened by Naruto's sudden outburst. Naruto's eyes widened slightly. He had forgot that while no one could see and hear Madara, everyone would be able to hear Naruto talk back. Naruto rushed over towards Raynare and enveloped her into a hug. I'm sorry if I scared you, Raynare-chan. Things are just getting a bit difficult. Naruto explained. Raynare didn't say anything and just inhaled deeply, taking in Naruto's scent. Naruto smiled slightly. Naruto then separated from the hug, much to Raynare's dislike. So what are your plans for today, Madara-sama? Raynare asked. Naruto ran a hand through his hair. Today would once again be a busy day. Well, I have to go to school first. There are some problems with the devils I have to sort out. As soon as Raynare heard the word devils, a scowl appeared on her face. If those filthy creatures are being a thorn in your side, I could always annihilate them for you. Raynare said. She would gladly kill anyone that even proved to be a small nuisance to her, Madara-sama. Raynare expected something amongst the lines of course. Let's slaughter these devils together. But unfortunately for her, Naruto just stouched her nose. Now let's not get all aggressive here, Raynare-chan. Naruto scolded. Those devils have proven to be extremely worthy tools for my cause. Yes, tools. It would be a total waste if I would kill them now. Naruto explained with a bright smile. Raynare's face scrunched up in thought for a second before she slowly nodded in agreement. I guess that makes some sense, Raynare said. Naruto smiled and nodded in approval. I'm glad that you understand everything. Now it's time for me to depart for school. I wouldn't want Rias to get pissed at me, Naruto grumbled. Raynare suddenly narrowed her eyes at Naruto. Naruto looked at Raynare in confusion when her expression suddenly changed to a sweet smile. "Who is this Rias you speak of so often, Madara-sama?" Raynare asked sweetly. Naruto cursed. He had to admit it, it was sure handy that Raynare was so overly attached to him. She would do what he wanted without any questions, but it could prove to be quite troublesome as well. Maybe it hadn't been such a good idea to cast a genjutsu on Raynare back at the abandoned church. Itachi had told him one day that even the smallest genjutsu can go wrong and permanently change a person's psyche. Maybe Raynare had gone insane. Maybe she was secretly just as crazy as that weird pink-haired girl he had seen on TV last night. Naruto quickly started channeling chakra into his eyes and activated his Kamui. "I'm innocent. Please don't kill me when I get back home. I love you, bye," Naruto said quickly as he was sucked into the vortex. Raynare glared at the spot where Naruto had been standing. Her glare soon changed into a rather dreamy expression, a blush crept on her face, and she started hugging the body pillow tighter. "He said that he loves me. Goddamn women, why can't I meet a normal girl for one time?" After having escaped the clutches of Raynare, Naruto had immediately appeared in front of the occult research building. Naruto would usually appear in front of the school itself, taking his time to walk towards the club. But he wasn't really in the mood now. For all he knew, Yudo could have returned and was now telling Ria's whole peerage about his meeting with him. He certainly couldn't have that. Naruto pushed the door of the building open and stormed inside. He immediately stopped his badass entrance once he saw how the building looked from the inside. Damn. This old piece of shit actually looks clean. Naruto slowly looked the hallway over. Maybe he hadn't been inside the building often enough, but he knew it had never been this clean. Thanks to the incredibly sparkling cleanness, Naruto noticed another door that he had never seen before. The door was covered by some kind of caution tape. That was telling that you should stay away from it, and every normal person would certainly do that. But this man was no normal person. He was Uzumaki Naruto. The man that had summoned a giant the size of an apartment complex at the age of 12. The man that had defeated a so-called god with 6 bodies. The man that suffered from diarrhea thanks to some old milk and actually survived without blowing up his rectal region. Some stupid caution tape wouldn't hold him back. But now was not the time. Naruto grinned as he looked over the door one more time before making his way towards the clubroom. Gotta check out the Chamber of Secrets later. Naruto whistled a tune as he skidded over to the clubroom. He stopped right in front of the door. He realized that his badass entrance had actually failed in the beginning because no one had seen it. Now would be the perfect opportunity. Naruto kicked the door open, it almost flew off its hinges. His badass entrance was answered by a squeak. Naruto entered the room to see Rias sitting behind her desk, covering her head with her hands like a bomb was about to drop on her. Rias slowly looked up to see Naruto standing in the doorway with a slightly awkward grin. Rias sighed in relief and lowered her hands. "Thank Lucifer, it's just you. I thought the Second Great War was about to start," she said. Naruto chuckled awkwardly as he rubbed the back of his head. I'm sorry. I guess." Naruto made his way towards one of the couches and sat down. Rias stood up from her desk and also walked towards the couch, promptly sitting down on Naruto's lap. She rested her head against his chest and Naruto started to play with her hair. Rias sighed. "I'm worried, Naruto-kun." Naruto frowned slightly. He already had an idea of where this was going. Deciding to be a nice guy, Naruto decided to delve into the problems of his girl that had kissed him. Whatever his current relationship with Rias was. "What are you worried about?" "I'm worried about Yudo." Yes, Naruto knew exactly where this was going. He's completely obsessed with his revenge. And the others are worried about him too. "I just can't think about the fact that my peerage is falling apart and I can't do anything about it," Rias said quietly. "Speaking of your peerage," Naruto said as he looked around the room. "Where the hell is everybody?" "Well, Akeno is probably at the shrine where she lives. Issei went somewhere with Saji and Kaneko probably went with them," Rias answered. Naruto's eyebrow rose up. "Who's Saji?" he asked. "Oh, of course. You haven't met him yet. He's a member of Sona Citri's peerage, she's the student council president." This was certainly a pleasant surprise for Naruto. There was another group of devils right under his nose. And the name Citri, it seemed so familiar. Then it touched. Azazel had told him that the current Leviathan was from the Citri clan. That would mean that this Sona might be directly related to the Leviathan. Naruto slightly nodded to himself in satisfaction, this could prove to be extremely useful in the future. But unfortunately, not everything was all sunshine and cups. Naruto knew that Issei would certainly try something stupid. That friendship as magic ideology of his would certainly interfere with Naruto's plans for Yudo. He had to act soon, before they had a chance to ruin everything. "But Yudo's not the only thing I'm worried about." Rias said as she gently rubbed Naruto's chest. Naruto rose an eyebrow in confusion. He thought the whole Yudo problem was the only thing on Ria's mind. I'm worried about us, Naruto-kun. What are we to each other? She asked. Naruto's eyes widened. He had never actually believed that it would come this. Naruto silently thanked Itachi for the advice he had given him the other day. Naruto was sitting on the couch, watching TV. The TV suddenly turned off. Naruto frowned in confusion and started searching for the remote, but couldn't find it. Naruto turned his head to see a very serious-looking Itachi holding the remote. Itachi threw the remote away and sat across from Naruto, leveling him with a stern look. We need to talk. Naruto whined. Come on, it was just getting to the good part. It's urgent. Itachi said. Naruto just crossed his arms and pouted childishly. Itachi then leaned back and closed his eyes, folding his hands on his stomach and resting his foot on his knee. Naruto's eyes widened. If Itachi assumed that pose, shit was about to go down. I've seen that you've attracted quite a lot of attention from the opposite sex. Itachi said calmly. Because you have no experience with romantic relationships, I came to the conclusion that you would need some help. Naruto's eyes widened in fear. He knew this day would come one day, but he had never expected for that day to come this soon. He was about to get romantic advice from an Uchiha. Uchiha. Naruto narrowed his eyes at Itachi. And what do you actually know about relationships? Hell, you don't even show any emotion most of the time. Itachi smirked slightly. Just so you know, from my academy days until the massacre, I was the biggest damn pimp in Konoha. If you want to know anything about the female species, I'm your man. Naruto resisted the urge to fassip him. This was going to be even worse than he thought. So, Itachi-sensei. Naruto said in a mocking tone. What are you going to teach me today? I'm going to focus on a specific question. Itachi explained. At any point in your relationship with a woman, most likely after naughty thing if it is a woman you don't know very well, she may ask this exact question. Itachi remained silent for a while. Naruto just kept looking at Itachi, waiting for the revelation. Maybe every woman was interested in the meaning of life. How would he answer that? What are we? Naruto almost fell off the couch. What are we? What kind of stupid question is that? I see that you are confused. Itachi stated. Naruto nodded dumbly. Look, foolish little brother. The women from this world are not like the kunoichi back from our world, most of them want to rely on their man and are not prepared to hear that their lover died doing his job or anything like that. Of course there are exceptions, but in your case I don't think there are. Unless devils and fallen angels don't care about their lovers. Itachi explained. But what the hell does that have to do with the question? Naruto asked. Those women want to know if you're actually interested in them, they want to know if you love them or just use them as an outlet for your lust. Those girls want to be loved by you, but maybe that's not what you want. Itachi said as he pointed his finger at Naruto's face. When she asks you what you two are, it comes down to you in the end. If you love her, go marry her, get her pregnant, I don't care. Naruto blushed slightly as a thought of Raynare and Rias holding his babies popped up in his mind. If you do honestly, how should I put this, well, if you frankly don't give a shit about the girl, just leave her. It are your feelings, and you're the only who decides who you share them with. Itachi concluded. So what you're saying is that I basically should be an egocentric bastard who doesn't even care about what the woman's feelings. Itachi nodded. Naruto just shrugged in return. Seems legit. So how did Naruto feel about Rias? Taking his final choice, Naruto leaned down and pressed his lips against Rias. Ria's eyes widened slightly before they closed and she melted into the kiss. The kiss was much like their first one, only longer and much sweeter. After a while, the two separated. Naruto grinned. I guess you understand my answer. Rias laughed slightly before she laid her head on Naruto's chest again. You have no idea how happy I am now. Naruto smirked slightly and wrapped his arms around Rias. I think I have an idea. I'm glad that your bed is big enough, I move around quite a lot while I'm asleep. Rias said, her tone slightly sultry. I don't get it. Naruto said flat out. He may have become smarter, but he was still dense sometimes. I'm going to live with you now, silly. Rias exclaimed happily. Naruto sighed and shrugged. Rias would probably push the matter until he would agree. But only one girl living with him wouldn't be such a problem. Crap. He forgot that wasn't actually the case. A meeting between Rias and Raynare would be absolutely disastrous. Naruto chuckled awkwardly. I don't think that's such a good idea, Rias-chan. I mean, we just got together a few seconds ago. Isn't this going a little bit too fast? Naruto asked, hoping to change Rias' mind. Unfortunately, it was to no avail. You don't have to be so shy, Naruto-kun. Rias purred. We've already slept together before and you didn't seem against it that time. Naruto scoffed. That's probably because you crept into my bed while I was still asleep. I didn't really get the chance to protest. Naruto gently pushed Rias off his lap, making her pout. He then stood up and stretched slightly before flashing Rias a small grin. I just remembered that I still have some important stuff. We'll talk about this later, alright. I guess we have all the time tonight, don't we? Rias said with a seductive smile. Naruto just shook his head and smiled faintly. Once he had left the room, he let out a sigh. It's time for Uncle Madara to pay someone a visit. Itachi calmly walked back towards Naruto's apartment, enjoying the nice weather. Itachi honestly liked this world. But everything was better if you weren't treated like the lowest of scum and a S-rank criminal most of the time. Hey, Itachi-san. Over here. Itachi turned his head to see a brown-haired boy waving at him. There were 5 other people with him as well. Itachi recognized the boy as Issei and 2 others as Kaneko and Yudo. The 2 cloaked figures that were also standing with them seemed familiar, but Itachi couldn't quite put his finger on it. One of the cloaked figures turned herself towards Itachi's direction. As soon as she saw him, her eyes widened. "You?" She shouted as she drew her blade and pointed it at Itachi, who had already approached the group. "What a pleasant surprise, Zenobia-san," Itachi said calmly, not looking unnerved by the holy sword of destruction being pointed right at him. "Wait, you 2 know each other already?" Issei asked. Zenobia ignored his question and glared at Itachi, who in return looked at her with an impassive look. "Have you come to finish the job? I think it's time that you pay for your sins, heretic," Zenobia spat. Itachi's expression didn't change. "Are you threatening me? I hope you actually still remember what happened during our last encounter," Itachi retorted. Zenobia gritted her teeth in response. "Now, don't start a fight. We have a more important goal to focus on, right Zenobia?" Irina said with a smile, hoping to avoid any conflict. Zenobia kept her glare up but grudgingly sheathed her blade. Irina then turned towards Itachi. "I really hope you atone for your sins, Itachi-kun. Such a handsome man like you shouldn't go around trying to kill innocent maidens like us," Irina said as she kissed her crest. "You tried to kill them," Issei blurted out in shock. He may have expected something like that from Naruto, the maniac had killed that fallen angel without mercy. But the calm encompassed Itachi. "I was merely acting in self-defense," Itachi said as he crossed his arms. "You were the ones that actually attacked first. So much for being an innocent tourist," Itachi finished with a sigh. Zenobia was about to shout again, but Issei quickly interfered. "Guys, we need to focus. We need to destroy those swords and quick," Issei reasoned. "I was hoping that we would be able to get your help, Itachi-san," Issei said as he looked at Itachi with an expectant smile. Itachi closed his eyes and started thinking to himself. He had failed Naruto horribly during his time at the Vatican. If he would help with the destruction of the swords, there was a chance his standing with the church would improve. This was a chance he couldn't pass up on. "Very well." Itachi opened his eyes. "I shall assist you." Issei grinned. "Alright, guys. Let's set out." Issei marched forward, dragging some blonde guy that Itachi hadn't even noticed with him. Kaneko and Yudo quickly followed. Zenobia was about to follow as well, but was stopped by Itachi grabbing her by her shoulder. "What do you think here?" Zenobia was silenced when she met Itachi's Sharingan. "I want you to remember this, Zenobia-san." Itachi spoke slowly. Zenobia was absolutely mesmerized by Itachi's eyes, like she was in some kind of trance. "Those that play with fire will get burned." Itachi then let go of Zenobia's shoulder and walked off. Zenobia just stood there, images of pitch-black flames flashing in front of her eyes. "Are you trying to kill yourself?" Madara watched on as Azazel quickly drank wine glass after wine glass. They were currently in a rather fancy restaurant, since Madara had promised to take Azazel out for a drink. Thanks to a little genjutsu, nobody seemed to mind Madara dressed so strangely. No one seemed to pay Madara any attention at all. "Aren't you going to order anything? The drinks are absolutely delicious," Azazel exclaimed as he downed another glass of wine. "I'm not thirsty, nor am I hungry. I'd suggest you try and satisfy your alcoholic desires while you still can," Madara said. Azazel just shrugged and started to drink his wine again. "Azazel, I want to ask you a question," Madara said as he leaned forward slightly. "Ask away." "Why did contact that devil boy?" Madara asked. "Aren't devils and fallen angels supposed to be sworn enemies? It would put you in great danger if he had found out that you're a fallen angel." Azazel chuckled before he took a small sip of his wine. "That's because that devil boy is pretty special. He interested me to no end, so I decided to check it out. But not that it matters anymore. Now that he knows that I'm involved with you, he probably won't accept my contracts anymore. Next time I'll meet him, it will probably be as enemies." Madara narrowed his eyes behind his mask. "What's so special about him?" "He holds an extremely special sacred gear. It's one of the 13 Longinus, the boosted gear to be precise, and the Longinus have the power to kill gods. And his holds one of the legendary dragons as well," Azazel explained. Madara just sat there in silence for some time. Then he started chuckling slowly. The chuckling soon turned into full-blown laughter. Azazel rose an eyebrow. This was the first time he had seen Madara act like this. "Is everything alright, Madara-san?" Azazel asked, concerned about his friend. "Maybe I should call an ambulance." "Oh no, everything is absolutely marvelous," Madara said, his tone filled with absolute glee. After his business with Kokabiel and Excalibur would be done, he knew exactly where he was going to focus on next. "I can't believe the pawn holds so much power and he doesn't even know how to use it properly," Madara said in amusement. Azazel smirked. "I actually know another person with a longinus. Coincidentally, he will be the rival of the devil boy we're talking about." "Oh? Maybe you should introduce me to him one day." Under the mask, Naruto's grin was almost splitting his face in half. He couldn't believe how lucky he was. Two extremely powerful sacred gears were right under his nose, waiting to be used oh so desperately. This would certainly give his plans a boost. Azazel's smirk remained on his face. "I think you two would get along just fine. Volley loves the thrill of the battle, much like you do. We shall see if he will be able to give me a good dance," Madara said, completely calmed down from his happy outburst. "Azazel, I know you're no fool even though you act like one sometimes. I suggest staying away from these devils." The thing was, Naruto wasn't even remotely concerned about Azazel. He knew that the fallen angel would be able to handle himself just fine. But if Azazel would start to get too comfortable hanging out with Issei and maybe even other members from Rias' peerage, Naruto would have more trouble keeping his cover up. He certainly couldn't risk that. "It really moves me that you worry so much about me, Madara-san," Azazel said with a grin. "But I have been doing just fine for longer than you can imagine. A low-class devil won't be able to hold me back, longinus or not," Azazel stated confidently. Madara snorted but didn't disagree. "I certainly hope so." The two of them continued to make small talk for a while. After Azazel had satisfied his needs for expensive wine, the two left the restaurant. The duo decided to go for a walk. As the two walked the busy street, Azazel noticed something. Every living being that walked by ignored Madara, like he wasn't even there. It wasn't like the people tried to ignore Madara. He certainly stood out from the crowd, with his black cloak and orange mask. "Hey, Madara-san," Azazel said as he nudged Madara's shoulder. Azazel took a good look at the people that passed by. Some of them looked at Azazel, others even smiled. But no one even spared Madara a glance. "What is it?" Madara asked, not even bothering to turn his head towards Azazel. "Why do all these people act like you're not even here? Like you don't even exist?" Azazel didn't notice that Madara winced slightly. Madara kept his gaze forward as he spoke. "Maybe the effects of the alcohol have finally started to affect your brain," Madara remarked. Azazel snorted in response, unsatisfied by Madara's answer. "I'll tell you what, I'm no lightweight. But the real question here is why all these people." Azazel then waved his hands around wildly, making some people look at him like he was crazy. "Don't even see you." Azazel got even more annoyed when Madara just laughed at him. "Well, maybe I'm just an illusion for all of them," Madara said rather amusedly. Azazel, however, was not as amused as Madara was. He actually looked like he was about to rip his hair out. Azazel decided that he had had enough, so he roughly grabbed Madara by his shoulders and pushed him against a woman that was walking by. The woman stumbled back slightly but quickly regained her composure and continued walking like nothing had happened. Azazel looked baffled. He looked at Madara, who was laughing out loud, and back at the woman who had already walked away. "You amuse me, Azazel. But don't push me like that ever again, I might have to kill you next time you do something like that," Madara said as he dusted himself off. Azazel just grumbled something incoherently. He had pushed Madara for the sake of science, and he had failed science. The two left the busy street and decided to take the long way through the park towards Azazel's apartment. No one said a word until Azazel stopped walking and broke the silence. "You're really a mystery, Madara-san," Azazel said as he shook his head. Madara laughed once again as the two continued walking. "People see me like a puzzle, Azazel. They spend their whole lives trying to solve me. But they all fail horrendously or take the solution to the puzzle with them to the grave. I know people have never understood me fully, and I have come to the conclusion that they probably never will," Madara explained. Azazel nodded before a smirk appeared on his face. "Then I will certainly solve the puzzle that you are, Madara-san," Azazel stated confidently. Madara just chuckled and shook his head. "Now enough about me. Tell me something more about the Longinus, the Devil Boy, and your acquaintance Pauses," Madara said. During the rest of the walk, Azazel told Madara everything he needed to know about the White and Red Dragon Emperor. Madara noticed that Azazel told him significantly less about the White Dragon Emperor. He probably wanted to keep the powers and identity of his acquaintance a secret for now. Madara already knew that his name was Volley, so that was a starting point. But for now he would focus on Issei, he was close by and he could get plenty of information on him. Madara suddenly stopped walking, much to Azazel's confusion. Madara pointed at the building in front of them, indirectly answering the question that was brewing in Azazel's mind. "We're here," Madara said. Azazel sighed as he looked at the apartment building. He then turned towards Madara with a grin on his face. "I certainly enjoyed myself, Madara-san. I'm certainly really happy that we met. You save me from boredom every time." Madara laughed slightly as the swirl of his Kamui started surrounding him. "I can't lie, you amuse me. You are actually worth my precious time." Madara started slowly disappearing inside the vortex, but he still had time to talk some more. "And drop the sand, Azazel. I think we're past those kind of formalities." Azazel grinned. He had finally found a way to get under Madara's skin. "Whatever floats your boat, Matty-chan. What's up, shitty devil? Can't keep up with my fabulous speed." Udo gritted his teeth as he clashed with Fried's holy sword. Fried touched his lips as he saw the sweat drip down from Udo's face. His speed was way too much for him to handle. Udo jumped back to gain some breathing space. "Damn. Udo isn't doing too well." Issei clenched his fists. Udo had told them not to interfere and Zenobia, Irina and Itachi were nowhere to be found. If it would continue like this, Fried would overpower Udo. Now he, Kaneko and Saji were just watching on helplessly. "He's too fast for senpai," Kaneko mentioned. When Saji heard that, he smirked. "Too fast, you say? We'll just have to slow him down then," Saji exclaimed as he activated his sacred gear. It had the appearance of a small black gauntlet that resembled a chameleon. Issei looked on in awe as he saw the absorption line for the first time. "You have a sacred gear too? That's awesome, Saji." Saji just kept smirking and fired a line towards Fried. The line wrapped around Fried's legs, rendering him immobile. "Damn it." Fried cursed as he tried to cut loose the line. "You filthy devils. I'll eat your hearts for breakfast," Fried shouted in rage. Unknown to everyone, a figure was sitting above them in a frame of a broken window. This was Naruto, still disguised as Madara. Naruto's eyes narrowed behind his mask as he looked at Fried, who was still struggling with the line wrapped around legs. There was something wrong with the way Fried was fighting, it looked unnatural. Naruto noticed that Udo was about to activate his own sacred gear, probably to finish off Fried, but was interrupted by a voice. "Sword birth, huh? Extremely dangerous sacred gear if used in the right hands." An old man who was dressed like a priest stepped out of the shadows. Fried grinned excitedly as the old man approached him. "Old man Valper." Udo's eyes widened before he glared at Valper in rage. The source of all his suffering was standing right in front of him. "It seems you still don't know how to use a blade like this properly, Fried," Valper said as he rubbed his chin in thought. "Then teach me how to do it properly." Fried sneered. "How am I supposed to bask in the suffering of all these filthy devils when I can't even cut them? Just channel your holy energy into the sword. It should make things easier," Valper explained with a wicked smile. Fried grinned as he started channeling into the sword. Excalibur rapidly started to glow with some kind of golden energy. Fried touched the sword before he used it to cut down Saji's rope with ease. Fried laughed maniacally. "I guess it's time to put you two." Fried was interrupted by Udo, who was standing in front of him and Valper with his sword raised up high, intending on killing them both. The blade was about to descend on Valper, but was stopped by someone's hand. Udo looked at the person who had stopped his attack and soon came to realize that would be his biggest mistake. Udo found himself in a completely white space. There was no one else there. Udo kept looking around, but the only thing he kept on seeing was the endless white color. "You really have no patience, do you, boy?" Udo snapped his head towards the direction of the voice. His eyes widened. "Madara!" Udo exclaimed. Madara just sighed tiredly. "Why are you here? Where are we? Where are the others?" Udo was about to continue his barrage of questions, but was interrupted by Madara's agitated voice. "Enough. Don't test my patience, child. I can tell you one thing, and I hope that will give you an answer that is sufficient enough. In this place no one will hear your screams of pain and agony, so calm down." Udo chose to remain silent. "Good. To answer your first question, I'm here to make sure that everything goes just the way I want it to go," Madara answered nonchalantly. Udo didn't look so convinced however, and had already narrowed his eyes. "Why didn't you let me kill Valper?" he asked angrily. That was the perfect chance for revenge. The perfect chance to get vengeance for his fallen friends. And Madara had taken it away from him. "I need Valper. I can't have you ruining everything I worked oh so hard for, now can I?" Madara said, a slightly provoking undertone in his voice. This made Udo even angrier than he was to begin with. "Are you afraid?" Udo asked, a triumphant smirk on his face. "I think you are. If I would kill Valper, you wouldn't have any grip on me. It turns out you are actually just scared." Yudo couldn't finish his sentence thanks to Madara grabbing him by the throat. Yudo had felt the pain of being grabbed by the throat before, but it had never been so painful. It was 1,000 times more painful. You really are testing my patience. Madara stated as he tightened his grip on Yudo's throat. If you think I'm scared, then you should see the look on your face right now. Valper is valuable to me. I cannot accomplish my goals without him. You do remember our little agreement, right? I don't take kindly to people that betray me, and I'm sure your friends won't be happy as well. Madara then released his grip, making Yudo fall down on the ground, gasping for air. Yudo blinked as he felt that all the pain was suddenly gone. He saw that he was standing across from Madara, who was still blocking his sword. Yudo quickly jumped back. He looked around and saw that Issei, Kaneko and Saji were still there. He then looked back at Madara, who was standing in between Fried and Valper with his arms crossed. "Boss. I'm so happy you're here," Fried exclaimed with a happy grin. Valper, however, didn't look very happy. He actually looked confused. "Who are you supposed to be?" Valper asked suspiciously as he pushed his glasses up. Before Madara could even say a word, Fried had pointed Excalibur rapidly at Valper's throat. "How dare you piece of shit," Fried spat. "You don't even know if Boss is almighty, Boss is all-knowing. I should cut your tongue off and use it to wipe my ass with." Valper actually looked really uncomfortable. Not only because of the holy sword that was pointed at his neck, but also because Fried was a complete maniac. Madara sighed as he placed his hands on Fried's arm and pushed it down, making him lower the sword. "I'm glad you are so devoted to me, Fried. But please, keep your tendencies in check. I can tell you didn't take your pills this morning, and only bad boys do that. And I know that Fried is a good boy, so control yourself." Madara scolded Fried like he was a little child. Fried didn't even look bothered by the way Madara was talking to him, he had actually hung his head in shame of his actions. "I'm sorry, boss. I'll be a good boy from now on." "Madara!" Issei shouted as he pointed his finger at Madara accusingly. "What the hell are you doing here?" "Oh, I remember you. You're Issei, the pawn," Madara said with some disdain in his voice. "You bet Yari am," Issei shouted. "I knew you were up to no good. Tell me what happened to my client, you bastard. How dare you talk to boss like that, you bat-winged piece of trash." Fried stopped his verbal assault when Madara placed a hand on his shoulder. Fried grumbled but calmed down nonetheless. Madara then turned towards Issei and laughed. The laugh didn't contain any amusement though, it was purely meant to taunt Issei. "You're an imbecile. You care so much about this client of yours, yet you don't even know his name. You really are feeble-minded. Heretic Fried Selzen and Archbishop Valper Galilei, prepare to pay for your sins." Issei turned around to see 3 figures enter the building. His face brightened and he started to grin excitedly. "Zenobia. Irina-chan. Itachi-san." Naruto's eyes widened behind his mask. "Itachi, this wasn't good. No, this was disastrous. If Itachi would find out, everything would be ruined. He could always escape now, but then he would risk losing Fried and Valper." "Calm yourself, Uzumaki," Naruto said to himself. Obito saw Kakashi thousands of times when he was still disguised and he didn't go berserk one time. "Stay in your role." Itachi looked on with wide eyes. He stepped forward, gently pushing Zenobia and Irina aside as he glared at Madara. Of all the people that could survive, it just had to be you, Madara. "How the hell does Itachi-san know everyone?" Issei shouted, but his cries fell on deaf ears. "Itachi-kun," Madara said as he spread his arms wide, as if he was welcoming Itachi. "What a pleasure it is to see you again. How is Naruto-kun doing?" Itachi's eyes narrowed. "I don't know what you're planning, but I won't let you lay a finger on Naruto," Itachi said, his voice full with hidden conviction. Madara laughed at Itachi. "So you think you have what it takes? The Yondaime couldn't protect him, the Sandaime couldn't protect him, Kakashi couldn't protect him, Jiraiya couldn't protect him, they're all dead now, having wasted their lives. What makes you think that you are any different?" Madara asked. Itachi remained silent for a while before a smirk appeared on his face. "He's my little brother. It's my duty to protect him." Naruto couldn't help but smile under his mask. Even though they weren't related by blood, Itachi cared for him like they were real family. Itachi looked back towards the others. "Stay back," he ordered. "I will have to fight him alone." "But Itachi-san. We'll have a bigger chance of winning if we work together," Issei tried to argue. "No. This man is far beyond all of you. His power is probably even beyond mine." This made Issei, Kaneko and Yudo widen their eyes. They had fought Itachi and he had defeated them without any effort. If this Madara was stronger than Itachi, they were in a bad position. Valper and Fried wisely took a few steps back, Madara didn't even have to tell them. As the two made sure to create enough distance between themselves and Madara, Fried turned towards Valper with a maniacal grin. "Just watch, you fat shit. You're about to experience the true power of boss. Before doing anything, Naruto cast a small genjutsu on himself. He was already at a disadvantage since he couldn't use any techniques that Itachi was familiar with out of fear of being discovered. The genjutsu made Naruto's Susanoo look like Madara's. It was barely noticeable, but Itachi would still have a chance to see through it. Itachi was a master of genjutsu after all. He just had to hope that Itachi would have more important things to focus on. Itachi glared at Madara before he charged at him. The two engaged into a fierce hand-to-hand fight. Itachi was slightly more agile, while Madara packed more strength behind his blows. Madara then hit Itachi straight in the stomach. He chuckled as he saw Itachi burst apart into a flock of crows. Already using your crow clones, huh? Madara said as he turned around, facing the real Itachi. Cheap tricks won't work on me. Itachi frowned. He knew that simple ninjutsu and genjutsu wouldn't work against Madara. The man had more experience than Itachi, it would be useless. He had to go for a heavy assault right away. The orange skeleton slowly started to surround Itachi. After it had been completely formed, skin started to surround the skeleton, and then armor. Everybody except Madara looked up in awe as they basked in the sight of Itachi's armored Susanoo. Naruto frowned under his mask. He'd be done for if he would be hit by the sword of Totsuka, and the Yata would protect Itachi from any attack. Naruto smirked when he realized he had one thing that Itachi didn't have. Incredibly large chakra reserves. I thought you were smart, Itachi-kun. Madara taunted. But you're foolish enough to try and challenge my visual prowess. Madara's blue Susanoo started to surround him. He knew Itachi wouldn't be able to keep up his Susanoo for long. Madara's Susanoo manifested its chakra blades and started to attack Itachi like a madman. Itachi didn't have any time to attack back, all his attention was on blocking the chakra blades. Itachi then noticed that the fourth arm of Madara's Susanoo wasn't holding a chakra blade. It was creating a Yasaka bead. Madara's Susanoo swung the projectile towards the unprotected group. Itachi's eyes widened, he wouldn't be able to make it in time. He quickly deactivated his Susanoo and ran over towards the group. He activated his Susanoo once again. Itachi gritted his teeth as he realized that he wouldn't be able to completely form his armored Susanoo fast enough. The Yasaka bead hit Itachi's incomplete Susanoo dead on. A flash of light obscured everyone's sight as the building shook and trembled. Itachi was sitting on his knees in front of the group, his eyes were bleeding, and he was panting heavily. Madara had also deactivated his Susanoo and was panting slightly. Suddenly, two magic circles appeared. Naruto cursed under his breath. One of those magic circles was Rias. Madara quickly turned towards Fried and Valper. Valper looked quite scared, intimidated by the incredible display of power. Fried just looked at Madara like he was about to say the most important thing in the world. You should go. He said. Madara then seemingly disappeared into nothingness. Fried grinned before he threw a flash bomb on the ground and disappeared with Valper. Zenobia, Irina and Yudo didn't waste any time as they immediately chased after the two. What happened here? Rias asked in shock. Rias, we have more important matters to focus on. Sona's voice rang out. Rias turned around to see Sona kneeling next to a wounded Itachi. Rias gasped and quickly ran over to Itachi. Itachi-san. Are you alright? She asked in concern. I live. Itachi coughed. Rias-san, you should come by our apartment later, take your friends with you if you want to. We need to discuss a few things. Rias blushed slightly as she laughed awkwardly. Oh, I was already planning to come by. Silence filled Naruto's apartment. He was sitting on the couch, his face buried in his hands. The situation had gotten bad, really bad. He knew Itachi wouldn't tell Rias and her peerage about their dimension, but he would certainly tell them that this Madara was more dangerous than they thought he was. If the devils would start seeing him as major threat, Naruto would be pushed into a corner. It seems you can't really do anything properly without my help. Naruto was about to trap Madara into a bear hug, but quickly remembered that he would just phase right through him. A happy grin made its way to Naruto's face. You're my savior, Maddie-chan. I knew you wouldn't leave me alone. Naruto beamed. Madara snorted. Don't think you're special or anything. Just watching you drown yourself in despair gives me an uneasy feeling in my gut, Madara muttered. A devious smirk appeared on Naruto's face. Is our little Maddie-chan a bit of it, Sundeer? You don't have to hide the fact that you care about me like I'm your own son. Naruto teased. Madara just silently glared at Naruto. I can't have you ruining everything now. You need to make sure that those devils and Itachi won't try to actively pursue you. Madara explained. I'd suggest staying under the radar for a while. You should keep on meeting Azazel but avoid appearances in public unless it's necessary. Naruto nodded. There's still one more problem, however, Naruto said with a frown. Madara narrowed his eyes. What did you this time? I kinda taunted Itachi a bit too much. Naruto said sheepishly. He will probably be a bit more protective of me now. That won't matter. Madara said, much to Naruto's surprise. If Itachi becomes too difficult to deal with, which I highly doubt, you should tell him that he should focus his attention on the angels. If my memory serves me correctly, Itachi hasn't progressed a bit with the faction, while you have quite the positive standing with both the devils and the fallen angels. Naruto's eyes widened in realization. It was true what Madara had said, Itachi had only helped him with Riser, but had yet to have any positive interaction with the angels. Naruto was about to continue talking with Madara, but a voice interrupted him. Are you hungry, Madara-sama? If you want I can make some dinner. Naruto chuckled and turned towards Raynare, who was already dressed in an apron, and only an apron. Naruto blushed slightly as he immediately averted his gaze from Raynare. Damn it, Raynare-chan. Don't you have any decency who goes around dressed like that? Naruto shouted. The real Madara scoffed. Says the man who has a jutsu that turns him into a naked woman. Don't you like it, Madara-sama? Raynare asked as she spinned around. This caused Naruto to even blush more. I didn't say I didn't like it. I think it really shows off your great figure. Naruto said, doubting his choice of words. Raynare seemed to be pleased by the answer and smirked approvingly. Perhaps you would like to see more of my great figure, Madara-sama? She asked seductively. Naruto was about to reply but was once again interrupted, this time by the appearance of a magic circle inside the room. Go to your room, now. Naruto ordered Raynare. Raynare seemed confused by the sudden command. But why? I said go. Naruto shouted. Raynare quickly ran over towards her room. Naruto took a deep breath. 5 people stepped out of the magic circle. Naruto quickly ran over towards Issei, who was supporting the winded Itachi. Naruto sat Itachi down on a couch, before promptly sitting down on the couch across of him. Akeno and Rias sat next to Naruto, while Issei and Kaneko sat down next to Itachi. What happened? Naruto asked slowly, feigning ignorance. Itachi sighed. Madara happened. Naruto's eyes widened. He then folded his hands in front of him, assuming a rather thoughtful pose on. He remained silent for a while until he finally spoke up. So he's alive too, huh? Do you have any idea what he's planning? Naruto asked. Itachi nodded slightly in response. He's probably involved with the fallen angel who has stolen the holy swords. As for why he's allied with him remains a question. Itachi answered. Naruto nodded and silence flooded over the room once again. How do you know this, Madara dude? Issei shouted in confusion, breaking the silence. You're both acting like he's supposed to be dead or something. Hell, he even has the same powers as you do. Stop making everything a mystery and explain it, damn it. Issei snapped. Issei. Don't be like that. Rias scolded. I'm sure Naruto-kun and Itachi-san aren't hiding anything from us. Rias then turned towards Naruto with a smile. Naruto immediately felt uneasy. Rias was important to him and he wanted to protect her. But how was he supposed to protect her from himself? You are indeed correct, Haidu-san. Itachi decided to answer. Madara has the same eyes as we do, thus granting him the same powers. In fact, Madara is, how should I put this, distantly related to us. Itachi explained calmly. This shocked Rias and her peerage. Itachi and Naruto were actually related to Madara. Naruto frowned slightly. He could see Itachi's reasoning, since Madara had been head of the Uchiha clan a long time ago. But this had actually put Naruto into a more difficult. In the end, he decided to play along with Itachi. Yeah, he's actually our great-great-great-granduncle or something like that, Naruto remarked. Itachi nodded, satisfied that Naruto had understood his hidden message. They couldn't go and explain that they came from a different dimension, but the devils would get suspicious if they would completely ignore the whole Madara issue. Madara is incredibly powerful. We don't stand a chance against him. I think we should avoid him for now. Naruto suggested. This made Itachi frown, however. Naruto-kun, I understand you don't want to put anyone here in danger, but Madara is too much of a threat to be ignored. Itachi tried to reason. Actually, we don't even know if he's a threat to us at all. So far, all the times we've met him have been unlucky encounters. By the looks of it, he probably handed Yurdo. His old plans have been destroyed, Nai-san. We don't even know what he wants. Naruto reasoned. Itachi and Naruto just kept looking at each other for a while, their eyes filled with conviction for their own ideas. No one dared to say a word. Well, one person did. How can we trust you? Issei asked quietly. Itachi turned his head towards Issei with a raised eyebrow. I'm sorry, Haidu-san. Could you repeat your question? How can we trust you? Issei asked again, this time louder and angrier. He had now even stood up from the couch. You both have the same eyes as that bastard, you're both related to him, and now you're trying to make sure that we don't go after him. He stole Asia's sacred gear, and now he's chasing after the holy swords. How do we know you're not on his side? Issei asked, mainly towards Naruto. Itachi sighed and rubbed his forehead. He was about to calmly explain Issei how they weren't involved with Madara, but Naruto had beat him to it. And Naruto wasn't calm. No, he was absolutely furious. Naruto had grabbed Issei by his collar and slammed him against the wall. Throwing around accusations now, bastard. Naruto sneered. I'll tell you what, you little shit. Without Itachi or me, your life would be up now. If I haven't been there, who would have saved Rias-chan from her engagement with Riser? Certainly not you, you'd probably be finished before the raiding game would have started, that's how useless you are. Naruto spat. Issei tried to free himself from Naruto's grip, but failed. And Naruto's verbal assault didn't stop. I bet that Nai-san saved your pathetic swell when you encountered Madara. How can you even accuse him when he just saved you from the man? Just so you know, I don't give a shit about you. You want to, then please, go on and fight Madara. But I won't be the one who'll drag your dead and broken body off the battlefield. Naruto then released Issei, making him fall rather ungracefully. Naruto then quickly made his way towards his bedroom, ignoring Ria's pleading for him to wait. As soon as Naruto had locked the door behind him, he grabbed a pillow and smashed it against his face, suppressing a scream of frustration. He'd let himself go just now. He didn't mean to snap at Issei like that. Hell, the most ironic part of all was probably the fact that he was the man playing Madara. Don't beat yourself up about it. The real Madara's voice rang out. You shouldn't be bothered by little things like that. The and his sacred gear can wait, you should spend your time on more important things. Naruto smiled faintly. I guess you're right, Maddie-chan. Naruto's small smile then turned into a full-blown grin. So what kind of training are we going to do tonight? He asked, his voice filled with excitement. I'm afraid we won't train this night. Madara answered casually. Wait, what? Why the hell aren't we going to train? Naruto shouted. Madara had been torturing him almost every night since he had discovered that they could properly interact with each other in Naruto's mindscape, and now he was going to leave him in the dust. Madara didn't answer, he had already disappeared. Naruto just sighed. Damn, he had been sighing a lot lately. He laid down on his bed and fell asleep quickly and soundly. But Naruto's eyes snapped open again. He wasn't in his bedroom anymore. He immediately recognized the place, however. He was in his mindscape again. But Madara had told him that he wasn't going to train him, so why was he here? Finally taken notice, have you? Naruto slowly turned his head towards the source of the deep voice. A grin crept onto Naruto's face. Indeed I have, Kurama. That's for today guys, hope you liked it. If you guys want the next part, then please do like and subscribe to the channel. And press the bell icon on. So that you guys get the notification of the next part whenever I upload.